but like
Welcome, race fans,
less
to
than
Sim
two,
TV.
2 days
Connor
ago, like
Horn
within the last 2
joins me
days,
on the
I
mic this
remember
evening,
seeing
and this is
posts.
Sim TV's live coverage of the Fuel Mission 22 Premier Series. As we know, you have many choices to meet your sim racing viewing needs. We thank you for choosing to spend your evening with us. We join you tonight from America's home for racing, Charlotte Motor Speedway. While the greater Charlotte area has plenty to offer, this venue is far and away my personal favorite, both on the sim and in reality. As the host to some form of racing or driving school on almost every day of the year, they stay busy. It makes sense then, Connor, that in Fuel's time of panic with Indianapolis cancellation, to turn to Charlotte as an option to host duels, a doubleheader, a 1-2 punch for these drivers as they grapple with the former beast of the Southeast.
It's going to be very exciting for sure. 2 races in the span of only a few hours. It's going to be a blast around this mile-and-a-half track. Charlotte's always the classic mile-and-a-half to go to. Like you said, this is basically where racing begins in the USA. Nowhere else you'd rather be other than Charlotte if you want to look for NASCAR racing. This is an absolute whale of a mile-and-a-half track. And it's going to be really exciting to see 2 60-lap races here tonight.
It absolutely will be. Very happy to be on the call with you this evening. Charlotte Motor Speedway, again, one of my personal favorites. And to fill in for the Kyle Heyer, boy, I am filling some big shoes with you. Again, Connor Horn on the mic with me this evening. I'm Andrew Cardinale IV, and this is going to be a very, I'm going to use very a lot, very fun one. Double headers for the first time in Fuel competition. This place is going to be exciting all evening long. 60 laps of distance for both races, and boy, big stuff on the way this evening for these drivers.
Yeah, it's going to be really exciting to see. We're going to see a lot of drivers scrambling for the points they can get for these 2 races, and you can't forget about the second race, the 60 laps in that, with the invert, the top 15 from the first race getting inverted for the second race. So that's going to be a key point to look out for, who gets jumped up into the order and who drops back a little bit, and if they can make that ground up. So race 2 might be even more exciting than race 1.
Absolutely. I think race 2 is going to be the one to talk about this evening. Race 1, these guys are going to get their bearings. They're going to figure this place out and figure out how they want to attack race 2. Even we're a little bit unsure about how race 1 is going to go, but here are some keys to the race this evening. A lot to talk about, I think. Tire conservation going to be on the forefront of everybody's minds for 2 reasons, I'd say, Connor. You come into this evening, obviously Charlotte eats tires up, but do you push or do you save? Do you push those tires, run just 30 laps and cut it in half, or do you try and save tires? We were even talking about pre-race a little bit about possibly trying to stretch those tires out and run 60 laps on fuel. The fuel should be able to make the distance. Then you can finish 15th in race 1, start on the pole for race 2. I want to hit this one early and I want to hit it hard because the 15th place driver in race 1 will start on the pole with race 2. That invert is going to be huge. And of course, maximizing restarts in 2 sprint races, that is going to be ever important.
Especially at a track like Charlotte, where it can be hard to pass at times. Those restarts can mean everything. If you get stuck in the wrong lane, you're pretty much toast. So these drivers are going to be scrambling 3, maybe even 4 wide on some of these restarts out of the corners to get all the track position they can get. Even on the initial start for this race, these drivers are going to try to get everything they can get. And you're going to see the initial start of the second race as well. Those drivers who you finish 1-2, they're going to start 14th and 15th, and they're going to have to scramble a lot on the restart to get their track position back.
Absolutely. It's going to be one to watch this evening, and just like we'd have in a heat race, I think we'll be watching that kind of 15th area battle with a little bit of awe just to see what does happen and how we do set the field for race number 2. Currently into qualifying, group qualifying for the Fuel Mission 22 Premier Series as per usual. Justin Rowden currently slots himself into P1, fastest on the speed charts. Alan Elwood, though, second place, the only multi-time winner so far this season. Looking at the 81 of Brad Slaughter, he's third place. Here's that number 5 of Alan Elwood on the racetrack. And qualifying, very important, but it's tough here at Charlotte, I'd say, more than most racetracks, because this isn't a very wide mile and a half. It looks wide, it might feel kind of wide, but realistically, the racing line, very narrow, and it's going to get clogged up pretty quickly if you have too many cars in the racetrack.
And that being said, we do have too many cars on the racetrack of open qualifying, but it's just something these drivers have to deal with. As you see a few drivers going into turn 3. Alan Elwood, obviously, like you said, the multi-time winner himself, trying to get back onto the pole. He was on pole earlier. It's tough to nail a a corner. It's tough to nail all 4 corners, excuse me, at a track like this. It looks easy. It seems easy. It always, you know, when you watch a NASCAR race, it looks easy, but it is so difficult to get the perfect lap. You have to absolutely hook that blue and white line on the bottom there. And if you miss it by centimeters, not even just inches, if you miss it by centimeters, you're going to go into a wall like Elwood almost did just then.
And now we're looking on board the number 1 car, Braxton DeWeese. I went back and I watched a whole bunch of races earlier this week to get some idea of what was going on this season for fuel. And this was a name I heard a lot at the Roval race here at Charlotte Motor Speedway a few weeks back. Very much looking forward to seeing how the 1 car does this evening. And of course, there's tons of storylines. I also know that Shane Terrian is playing Mr. Consistent this season, which I think is very on brand with the Shane Terrian that I know. I look forward to seeing that number 83 compete this evening as well. A full field of cars just about. We're at, looks like 35 cars this evening entered into what is going to be one heck of a duel. About 20 seconds left in qualifying, so this is about the order that we think you'll see when it comes to our grid, which is coming up very, very shortly.
Yeah, it's pretty much all set and done. We'll see who can get another last lap in. And like you were talking about Shane Terrian, he was Mr. Consistent last season. That's what won him the championship, and he's doing the same thing yet again this season, trying to go back-to-back, I believe.
2 days ago, like within the last 2 days, I remember seeing posts.
So this could be a really big year for that 83 machine if he can pull it off.
It absolutely could be. Having competed with a lot of these guys before, they take these races very, very seriously. And for Shane Terrian to go out there with, well, not just a 1-2 punch this evening, possibly a 1-2 punch last season and this season, that could be huge for the number 83 team. And, well, really the rest of the field to have to play catch-up to the 83 car once more. Getting ready to go right into our starting grid this evening, Connor, and it's going to look a bit like the following. Starting first place, Justin Rowden will be bringing us to the green flag. Starting outside of him, it's the 84 of Tom Bourne, jumping up ahead of multi-time winner now Alan Elwood. Brad Slaughter will roll off from the 4th position.
And then points leader, I believe Shane Terry, Mr. Consistent up there in P5. Riley Thompson, who was really fast at Indy before the incident with the internet happened. He's P6. Bresci P7. His first oval win came here at Charlotte. We'll see if he can do it maybe once or twice here tonight. Case Lakatos 8th. Justin Munsell slots in P9 in the top 10, rounded up by Braxton DeWeese.
You head back to 11th place to find Robert Kenny in the 34 car, Michael Stroll in 12th in the number 8. You go back through your top 15, you got Hayden Pastorius in the number 9, Zach Passon in the 69, Bronson Stafford in the 61. Starting from the 15th position, Zach Buchanan rolls off in the 16th spot.
And then to round out the top 20, Mike Tellier, a new name that I haven't seen in a while. He's 17th. 18th, Nick Massey, who won a ERSCA championship a few months back. Chad Simpson, always a regular Daytona winner in 2020B. He's 19th. Ryan Kish, P20. Mitch Welker, always a threat, P21, alongside the man Will Roberts, 22nd. And Casey Shue and Danny Ware on the same road together, 23rd, 24th.
Rolling back to 25th, it's Davey Hendricks in the 54 car. Finian DeCuna, how about Finian out there? I know he's running a full season just about this season after part-time last time around. Good to see him out there, albeit in 26th position to start this one off. Christian Gritzko in the 91 and 27th spot. Then Brian Chambliss in 28th. We'll take you to the back end of your field with Joseph Tebben, Brent Jones, Sarah Tessum in the 70, David Mott in the 14. And the back 3 cars are Tyler Hensley, Matthew Rodriguez, and Mike Hurley. I don't believe any of those 3 took a time this evening in their qualifying session. Getting ready to go for, again, 2 60-lap duels. This is going to be a very, very exciting one. I'm so looking forward to getting to do this. This is something you don't see many stock car leagues, especially on this level, do. It's going to be unique this evening for sure.
Oh, it's definitely going to be unique, and you're talking about how oval leagues don't do this. Even Fuel doesn't do this. This wasn't planned at all, but it's just something they had to put together on the fly, and it's going to be sort of an experiment race, but it's still also going to be for big points in the championship as far as the Fuel finals go. So it's going to be different today. You're not just waiting the first quarter or first half of the race to learn the track. You have a whole race to learn the track for race 2 if you choose to do so. So we're going to see a lot of different strategies. You're going to see people going for it at the very beginning. You're going to see people conserving their stuff, which I expect the 83 is going to conserve his stuff. You're going to see a lot of different strategies play out tonight if this somehow goes green. And even if it doesn't go green, you're still going to see a lot of strategy.
A lot of amazing racing on the way, and we'll take you through every lap of coverage here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Rolling off to take lap number 1. The pole sitter, Justin Rowden, going to bring us to the green flag. We're off and away. We are green from Concord, North Carolina. The field already headed to turn number 3. Justin Rowden leading the way. You see a side-by-side battle. The first one is for third place. Riley Thompson down low on that blue line, not the yellow line down around the bottom side, and he gets in front of Tom Bourne to take the third place away.
You're already seeing how difficult it is to pass. It's already getting single-filed out, mainly at the front. Roden leads, Elwood, Thompson, Bourne, and Slaughter. The top 5 is the first side-by-side battles for 7th. Case Lakatos in the SimTV Supra trying to stay on the outside of the 24, Thomas Bressy.
And this whole gaggle of race cars headed down to turn number 3 for the second time. And we talked a bit pre-race about this bump in turn 3 that you hit, but it makes Charlotte so fun because you've got to be on that edge all race long, and just getting down there and hitting that bump, it can really mess up the car in a lot of ways. It can unsettle you, push you up the racetrack, it can unsettle you, get the rear end a little bit loose. It's something these drivers will have in mind all evening.
Yeah, these drivers are going to be focusing on that same bump every single lap of this race. It's going to be very difficult to navigate if you're not used to navigating it like that. We're already seeing a few drivers start to struggle a little bit. Some drivers trying to get to the front. Davey Hendricks has a little bit of right front damage. He's back there in about 25th, and he went through the AstroTurf down there. That's another thing to note. If you do get spun out of turn number 4, you might have a chance to save it thanks to that AstroTurf.
Up front, it's still all Justin Rowden leading the way in one of only 2 4s that I've seen check in so far. Mostly single file through the field. You see double wide with, looks like Bronson Stafford down to the bottom side. Still getting used to some of these new colors, some of these new names from the last time I was paying attention to field. But hey, there's Zach Buchanan in there as well. The 20 of Nick Massey. I know those guys are pretty relevant, pretty, I guess, privy to being talked about. And 3 wide actually now down the front stretch with Zach Buchanan. We do have a car in the wall. I think that's Mike Tellier. No, that is a different car.
Gritzko's involved in it as well. Got a few cars involved. 1 car on his roof. That is Christian Gritzko on his roof.
There's the number 91 car, Christian Gritzko. Big problems down the front stretch. And oh boy, what this could mean for so many drivers. Let's take a look back, see if we can't find out what's happened down the front stretch here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. This might be a little bit spotty finding this replay, but you see Christian Gritzko. Oh, he's behind where it all starts. Was that Casey Shue?
You know what that started with? You saw them checking up. They didn't want to go 3 wide in that dogleg, and I think it was Chad Simpson who checked up, and it caused a huge stack up in that dogleg that just no one could avoid. No one expected a check up in that dogleg, and that's what sent Casey Shue into the outside wall, and there was nowhere for the 91 of Gritzko to go. You'll see the 42, that VRS machine, they start to stack up. They try getting 3 wide, and he has to check up. That checks up the whole inside lane. The 91, whoever that orange and white car was not ready for it. Casey Shue piled in, and Gritzko, again, nowhere to go.
And there is the injured number 4 car down the pit lane. Justin Rowden will bring the field around for their first opportunity to pit. And Connor, I think this kind of spells danger if anybody was planning to try and stretch tires. In fact, we do have a taker. That is Tom Bourne, it looks like, in the 84 coming down the pit lane. He does. And he's going to bring Justin Munsell and Casey Lakatos and more down the pit lane with him. This already, I think, rules out the possibility of stretching it out. I don't think it's going to be advantageous anymore. That said, it might open it up to somebody, I don't know. This is such a weird race to try and call. It's a really weird race to try and plan strategy for. I really don't know what to expect. I say it rules it out. It might even bring it back into where these guys might consider it. I think it's going to rule it out for guys that might have just wanted to mind their own kind of beeswax in the back of the field. It might bring it up into the realm of possibility for guys up front. We're going to be thrown for a loop, I think, this first race. The second race, we'll know so much more about what to expect. I mean, I'm sure you're used to calling longer races, about 200 miles apiece, as well as myself. This is a really big wild card, not just for us. I think this proves how much of a wild card this is for those guys down in the race cars as well.
Yeah, I think that this is really just an experiment. You get an early yell like this, your people who taking tires are trying to figure out what they can do with new tires compared to the guys on old tires getting through the pack and whatnot. The guys on old tires, now they're basically experimenting on how long they can hold the lead or a top 5 spot or anything like that on old tires compared to new tires. I personally think it's too early to take those tires. You know, you have 2 extra sets in the pits. You know, if you split it up in, even ways, you'd pit for one set on lap 20 and another set on lap 40 if the yellows fall like that. But lap 6, lap 7, it's a bit early for that. I don't know how much of a difference it's going to make for those guys trying to get back up through the field, especially with Tom Bourne, the first driver on new tires. He's going to be way back there. He might even be outside the top 20, so he's going to have a lot of ground to make up as we see a few more drivers pit. Robert Kenny, Bronson Stafford, Brian Chambliss come down this time.
And here some of those guys are. I believe Robert Kenny and Bronson Stafford should still be teammates, if I recall, from that organization. So maybe that plays into your decision here at the start. You just kind of go off what your teammate does if you're a little bit unsure of how to attack this one this evening. I don't know. And this, again, is a wild card for more than just us up top. This is really going to throw these drivers for a bit of a loop. And I think we're already seeing some drivers play their hands, just come in, make sure they have the fuel. And those guys could be the ones that try and go the distance, actually. They could be the ones to stretch this one out now. And it might be more tangible for them and less tangible for others. It's a really oddball to throw in the mix, and I'm all for it. I love changing things up because if it's unknown for us, think about how it is for the drivers there again. This is something that I think leagues need sometimes to change things up. That said, want to take a look at the YouTube chat in Casey Shoe. Boy, is he dejected. Definitely unhappy with the way his season has gone so far. Again, I was looking into some of the past races. I can tell you it's definitely been a painful season for that number 4 team. And, you'd think the back of the field would be the safe place to be. Not so much. And boy, already out of this one, but we are coming around to our second green flag on the evening, and it's not the start of race number 2. It is the restart here coming to lap number 9, Connor.
And we're going to see the green flag thrown. We'll see when Roden goes. He goes early. He goes now. He's trying to get the best restart he can get. We talked about restarts. They're going to be wild. He gets the lead early on. He's going to leave Alan Elwood stuck on the top. Riley Thompson's going to go for second.
Fighting back through turns 1 and 2 once more. They'll come up out of turn number 2, and Justin Rowden is still the race leader side by side of Riley Thompson and Alan Elwood. Thompson down to the bottom side. He's going to bring Terry in with him, and they race off to 3.
This is exactly what Justin Roden wants to see. He wants to see them battling for second hard while he can just kind of save his tires and not burn them up as much as he just sits in the lead all alone. As Riley Thompson now, he's likely going to clear Alan Elwood. Yes, he does. So the top 2 clear, and now the battle is for third. Here comes Terrian, the points leader.
Shane Terrian already setting his sights on a podium position, and I'll be darned if he can't get up there and battle with Riley Thompson as these laps wind down. Of course, Shane Terrian, Mr. Consistent. In fact, it looks like he's to the inside of Alan Elwood down the backstretch, so maybe taking this third place away pretty quickly. There he is on the inside of that number 5 Toyota Supra with the edge out of turn 4 as well. He's going to beat him to the line. He officially has third, but doesn't quite have that 5 car cleared yet.
Elwood's going to fight as hard as he can up there as we get a big stack of Riley Thompson really stacked up the bottom there as we got a car in the wall. Never mind, he got it away good. But Terrian just lost that position thanks to that big checkup by Riley Thompson himself. And Elwood's going to be able to get the second out of all that.
Fighting down to the bottom side in turns 3 and 4. Elwood takes that spot back away from Riley Thompson, says thank you very much. And I want to keep everybody in the loop, of course. These guys are still racing for their halfway points. This is a double points night for these guys. And I think that's the big change-up that we have to pay attention to, more so than just the fact that we're sprint racing this evening. There are so many more points on the line, literally double. And as Elwood, I didn't even notice there for a second, he goes up and takes the lead right away on lap number 12. I think this is the story of recent weeks, though. The 5 car just seems so good on these driver racetracks, and he's going to take that lead away already. But that plays into my point then about these points of halfway of each of these races. They still get their halfway points, 10 for first and on down to 1 for 10th. And these guys have to drive for it a whole lot earlier than they might usually have to.
Yeah, and it's going to be a much bigger sprint to halfway than it usually would, like you were talking about. And someone who's really good at getting points when he needs to is Alan Elwood. Is we were talking about his strengths. His strengths have been short tracks. I believe his 2 wins are at Rockingham and also at New Hampshire 2 weeks ago, the last official race. But he's shown he has speed at these 1.5-mile tracks, and he's showing it right now. A pass on the outside for the race lead. He made 2 passes on the outside to get into the top 3 and eventually to the lead. That's hard to do at this state of iRacing right now. So getting to the outside, passing for the lead, that's got to show you that that 5 car might be the guy to beat tonight.
Boy, that's one way to talk about having problems with multi-groove racing for sure. I mean, it's tough for these guys. I think that's the best way to put it. It's tough. You really can't just run any line on the racetrack that you want to. It's almost like if you had a tire that just kind of limited your options on the racetrack. I think that's the great way to put it, because you know what? Just like you might have mechanical issues with your race car, you might have issues with your computer, and that could be compared to a mechanical failure. I think sometimes when a tire doesn't always match a racetrack, or even a driver's driving style, that's where you get this limitation with lines that you could choose on a racetrack, and that's where you get the difficulty to pass. And that's why you see Riley Thompson, I think, has more pace right now than Justin Rowden, but there's no way for him to get around. Slaughter hard in the wall.
Brad Slaughter Jr., Thomas Bresci side by side. Bresci slid up. Slaughter kind of got bodied into the outside wall. They're going to squeeze 3 wide past them. They're going to be able to make it work, and we stay green, but that 81's going to be dropping way down the order.
And we can take a look back at how that all happened. This will come on the outside of turn number 4 here momentarily, and we're watching that 81 car of Brad Slaughter Jr. Bresci on the inside. There's the contact and up the racetrack hard.
It's a big hit that's going to really hurt the right front off the corner, as we see that's Tebben getting out of the way as the lap car. You saw Bresci really throttle up center of the corner. He really wanted to make that pass right then and there, but he just did not have the clearance high to do that, and missed that bottom line as well. And 81, the innocent bystander, can imagine he's too happy about that, but we carry on as we start to see a little bit of a breakaway at the front with the top 4.
This is on board with Bresci right now as he sits in behind the 12 of Ryan Kish. Justin Munsell now taking that top 5 spot ahead of these two. And I think everybody very calm so far. Sure, we've seen that little bit of contact. We've seen a couple of cars, for lack of a better term, get shunted into a wall. I don't think this is all that hectic, though, so far. Very, very calm. I think everybody just pretty orderly, and they're just trying to fight for the racing line. And again, that's where I go back to what I mentioned in qualifying, where this place looks kind of wide. Sure, you got 3 painted grooves on the back stretch, but it's not. The racing line is very, very narrow here at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah, and you're seeing that play out right now. Those two, plenty of room for 2 wide, but just not very much room to give right there, as they're really racing hard in the back of the pack, as people are still trying to scramble for positions. The battle for 20th, especially Finian DeCunis there, Tessa, Michael Stroll, all these guys scrambling to the bottom line, to the top line. They're just trying to find any room to pass each other right now. And as far as I know, as far as the guys who pit go, Tom Bourne, I know he was the first one to get in and out on new tires. He's only an 18th, so I think we're already seeing a learning curve happen right here. New tires after about 5 laps, not really worth it.
Here's a situation that was 3 wide down the back stretch. Buchanan was in that with teammate Welker in tow. Bronson Stafford going to leave them now and start to fight the 97 of Mike Tellier. I believe he is kind of in that group with Terrian and Stafford, and he's running his first race of the season this evening. So a shout out to Mike Tellier making his first start. Up ahead, Casey Laconis now up ahead of Tyler Hensley, in behind the 42 of Chad Simpson. And this is just kind of a train of race cars headed down the back stretch. We got one car peeking down low. That's Kish on the, it looks like 69 of Passer, or was that the 9 of Pastorius?
That was Passon making a move on Ryan Kish, as Passon makes that move for the 7th position, but Ryan Kish is going to go for the classic crossover, as the 69 is going to let him get to the bottom there, so he's going to have to do a bit of defensive driving on that 12 machine as he hits the bump. Hits a bit of a bump. He really just missed the bottom, as Pastorius is going to force the issue 3 wide for a moment, as Kish is going to start the fall here as Pastorius gets up to that 8th position, and here comes Nick Massey for the 9th position.
So watching this battle into turn number 3 kind of evolve, and Kish now on the outside of Massey. Massey going to take that spot. Simpson going to work down low, and you see how close they get to that wall out of turn number 4 as well. I think Calamity Corner here could apply to both ends of the racetrack right now. I think out of turn 2, of course, run out of space, and you're racing really hard. It's a very fast section of the racetrack. Out of 4, that banking falls away so quickly, and you want to straighten out as early as you can to get down the quad oval as quickly as you can. But if you do so just a hair too early, suddenly you're in that outside retaining barrier.
Yeah, just a quick moment. Had a bit of an instant lap 21 out of turn 2. Robert Kenny, who was trying to get up through the field, cut off Sarah Tessum. Kenny has hard damage into the outside wall there to continue to stay green, but it's definitely, yeah, that's the kind of racing we were seeing here and there. Just a lot of aggressive racing. And then you have guys at the front who are just very conservative right now. It's mainly the top 6 who are away from the rest of the pack who are being pretty conservative right now. And then you have guys like Passon, Massey, Pistorius, Kish, Stafford, Chad Simpson, who are just at each other's throats right now, trying to get any position they can. And they know they don't have the time that they usually would in a race like this, so they're fighting for everything they can get right now.
Oh, we just had a pass for the race lead. Justin Rowden's going to take that lead back over, and this is the evolution of tires we're going to see throughout the night. Justin Rowden just straight to the bottom side on turn number 4, takes that lead away, and suddenly that Ford Mustang back on point. Alan Elwood put back on his heels, and he's going to have to chase that 21 back down. Thankfully, not a large gap into turn number 3, but as the tires start to fall away, you wonder if maybe Rowden just taking that easier approach to save some tires, and if Elwood burned his off.
This is something that Elwood has had a problem with this at the mile-and-a-half tracks. He will lead for a decent bit at the beginning of a run, and then he'll fade a little bit. Similar to what Thomas Bressy's done for a long time in the Fuel Series, as he's been able to right that, but the 5's still having some learning curves with this tire. I think he did burn him up too early, and he's starting to fall back a little bit. We got a wreck at turn number 2. I think the 44 of Hensley might have been involved. He stopped on the top of turn 2, but once again, we have no yellow. Another
Everybody's
car
scrambling. That's Tellier down
Yellow's
low.
out.
Finally, the yellow flag comes out. Tyler Hensley with big problems up out of turn number 2. We'll take a look back and see what we can't find out. And looks like we should have a replay here. I will say, sometimes iRacing's rendering doesn't favor my computer too much, but we'll try and make the best that we can out of this. And Tyler Hensley, that red chrome front end, number 44. Ooh. And an issue with Welker and Kish.
Yeah, Kish really checked up in the corner and had the Welker's trying to stay off of him. And the Hensley, oh, wow, that was Tellier who had a big hit to the inside wall, but that was a big stack up with the 12. And Mitch Welker checked up for it, and Tyler Hensley just had no time to react, really. As the 44 went to the outside wall, Mitch Welker kind of came down the track to save it. Buchanan's there as well. Contact with Buchanan, a bit of neck code there, and Tellier's going to slam that inside wall.
That is certainly a painful welcome to the series for Mike Tellier, and that's going to be big damage for him. It may or may not eliminate him from tonight's contention here in race number 1. I mean, it's tough to tell sometimes with those hits, isn't it, Connor, where it shouldn't really just absolutely destroy your motor, but it does oftentimes. Sometimes you get away with it. You might be able to just fix that arrow and on a long run, save your tires and grab some extra positions that you might not usually expect.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how that goes, but I don't think he'll be able to drive that up through the field if I had to guess. As Casey Cottis rose through pit road, he'll likely get his one lap lead that he always does. Robert Kenny might have done the same, but in reality, he might have actually missed his stall. Everyone comes down, some for their first set of tires, some for their maybe second set, as we got a spin! Elwood just spun off of pit road!
Charlotte's pit lane is pretty tough to get off of, but I don't think I was expecting a spin here. Oh boy, Alan Elwood having problems. I was wondering if Lakatos might have actually just rolled through pit lane himself, but I'm not really sure. He definitely didn't stay out, and it was that bump on the inside that catches Elwood out. It's not something you ever expect to have to maybe even turn practice laps for, exiting the pit lane of all things. You might think about pitting in at Daytona or Talladega, not so much here at Charlotte. That's going to be a painful one there for Alan, but he will get his spot back. I don't think any harm is done. It's just, unfortunately, spins.
If anything, it might help him. It'll warm up the tires quicker than everyone else is, so that might be good for him. And Case Lakatos and Robert Kenny both rode through pit road. Lakatos does this pretty much every race just to get a lap lead, as it will work for him again. As Robert Kenny, he won't get a lap lead. He'll come down pit road. As off that pit sequence, Rodin's going to keep the lead from Elwood, who has 4 slightly worn tires now. Then Terry in 3rd. It will be Thompson 4th, and it should be maybe even Munsell 5th. No, Thomas Bressi will be 5th, as everyone has the same set of tires now. Some are out of tires, like that 84 of Tom Bourne, so we'll have to wait and see if we do get another yellow, what the restart's going to be like.
So correct me if I'm wrong, we got 1 set of tires to work with coming into this evening in each race?
For this, let's see, I don't know off the top of my head, but as far as the iRacing info goes, the tire set limit is 3, so I don't know what I don't know if you can see. I don't know if we can even see the tire set
Interesting.
limits for a heat compared to the feature, but I would have to believe they obviously had one set. They might have had an extra set because Tom Bourne did come down pit road.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic that you have to work with as well. That's, heat racing, of course, usually reserved for dirt racing, be it dirt oval or dirt road. So it's not something that the fuel admins might have even necessarily put a ton of thought to before making the decision. But now these guys have to think about it. What do you do in that position? I'm sure they got it figured out. They have it worked out. The drivers know what they've got to work with. But certainly, again, adding to those interesting dynamics and changing things up this evening. But hey, just like NASCAR is going to a bunch of different racetracks here in 2021, we're throwing in COTA, we're throwing in Bristol Dirt, Road America in there as well. I think this kind of change up is always welcomed and is always a good thing in these kinds of leagues.
Yeah, it's always good to kind of do new things. It's obviously a new thing for fuel. That's, like you said, not something they do very often, not something asphalt leagues do at all. So it's really interesting to see how the strategy plays out, how the racing's different compared to a normal fuel race. It's definitely very interesting to see. And speaking of interesting, another thing that's interesting, Casey Lakatos, he usually does do this to stay out to get a lap led. He's doing more than that. He's going to stay out and lead the field to the green. It looks like might be trying to get away with a halfway bonus point, but it's a one lap. That's another thing we had to talk about. It's basically a one lap shootout for these stage points now, and Lakatos is trying to steal some, but I don't know how that's going to work.
It's a great idea. He only has to hang on for 4 corners, and he doesn't necessarily have to walk out of here with 10. Even if he walks out of here with 5, it's a huge move. Even if he walks out of here with 1, that is big for the season in general. We're coming right up on that halfway point in the regular season, Connor, so points more important than ever, and they're only going to become more and more important as the races go on. In fact, the points in race number 2 will be even more important than the points in race number 1, I feel like. So just with every race, the importance grows, if not exponentially, certainly rather highly and rather quickly, even as the laps go on. Of course, you get to lap 30, and these points become important. 60, they're even more important. And Lakatos, well, he's showing his hand. He's making a play, and I like this audible here from the number 50 Sim TV Toyota Supra. We'll see how it works out for him on this restart. Coming to not quite halfway, coming to lap 30, though, of 60. Lakatos off and away. He's already got a great start for going for those 10 points.
It's a good start indeed, but he's going to have to do well through 1 and 2 to hold off Justin Roden, who's been sort of dominant, as well as the 5 of Elwood. Whoever gets by this 51st is winning this stage. 21's going to go for the over-under. Terrian got loose there, a bit of netcode. He saves it. Lakatos is going to block a little bit. The yellow's out. We got a car flying in turn number 2. A bunch of cars wrecking off at turn number 2. A big one.
Big crash. I see Welker involved down there. It looks like Stafford may have gotten a piece of it or stopped. I'm not totally sure. So this does hand the halfway win then effectively to Casey Lakatos. So I think that play works quite nicely then. And oh boy, there's a big mess down the backstretch. We're going to try and find out what happens here.
It started with Ryan Kish, and we need to watch what the 12 of Ryan Kish does here. He gets loose in some way. He gets loose on his own, and
oh no!
The wall just absolutely hooks him, and he goes flying into the air, which that's just iRacing for you in a nutshell. But then there was, aside from that, they wrecked off a turn 2 even farther back. I think there was a bit of confusion with how that wreck happened, and we had people wrecking because of it. Brian Chambliss, Mitch Welker has a bunch of damage, as well as Chambliss. Finney DeCuna got involved. Braxton DeWeese, big damage. That was a huge wreck, even after what was probably a deadly wreck in sim racing.
Yeah, Ryan Kish. I shouldn't say it's a new one. It's a new one at Charlotte, I think. I don't think I've seen that here, at least. But, boy, the wall, I mean, it grabbed that 12 and threw him in the air. And then you see the 69 having problems of passing. There's, oh my gosh, Braxton DeWeese. I talked about him pre-race. I guess I shouldn't have. He's involved in this. Welker as well. A lot of cars in this one down the backstretch.
And the problem with that was Chambliss didn't arc a brake or anything. Mitch Welker sort of netcode hit that flying machine of Kish, and it really slowed that car down, and Chambliss had no time to react, and they piled in. A lot of drivers just had nowhere to go there. I think the best avoidance there, I couldn't tell who that was exactly, but it looked like it might have been Will Roberts, who just barely got through all of that. So
yes, he was down on the apron. And certainly amazing awareness out of Will to dive down there, almost the inside wall, might I add, and sneak on by that. There goes, it looks like Was that the 57 possibly getting a lap back? Yes, Matthew Rodriguez, 31st position, grabbing his lap back. And, well, these guys get a nice little reset. Lakatos gets his 10 points, and we're going to re-rack them, restack them, and go at it again.
One of 5 laps that Rodriguez needs to get back. All the other drivers a lap down in front of him. Ryan Kish and Mitch Welker are done for the day, and Mike Tellier, he has not been on track in a while. So a fortunate lucky dog for the 57 trying to get back through the field after damage, I believe, from the first start. And once again, what a break for the 50 of Lakatos. If he didn't do that, he probably would have been in that wreck because he was right around Ryan Kish when that last yellow came out. So that was a big swing of points for the 50.
Yeah, you know what? Had he taken tires and just run the same strategy as some of these other guys, he could have been in that. He could have been the one pirouetting in the air. Who knows? Okay, so Lakatos gets away nicely. And, I mean, he loses 22 spots, I guess, in that pit stop because everybody else had already come in. But with the opportunities that lie in the next 25-some laps, very important for Casey Lakatos to get those 10 points and possibly add to his total on the evening still. A lot of time to go and a lot of chance for him to get up there and change how his race may go. Justin Rowden, still your race leader. Pace car lights still on the iRacing pace truck. Connor, I'll put you on the spot. And I ask my guys this question a lot of times in other broadcasts. If you have to be a gambling man currently, just over 25 laps to go in this race, we'll have a restart with, it looks like 26 to go. Who are you betting on? Who do you put your money on here?
There's only 2 people that we could realistically choose from, and I think it's going to be Justin Roden as far as this goes. It depends how the yellows fall. If this goes green to the very end, I could see Elwood leading, but Justin Roden's just so much better with his tires on the long run. I think it's going to go green to the end. These guys will clean it up, and I don't see the 21 being beat on the long run to the end.
No, I think it'll be tough for sure to beat that 21 car. Yeah, that's a great pick. I think if I'm trying to go a little bit out of the box, I might pass up the 5 car of Alan Elwood. I feel like he's another obvious choice to go with. I might look to that 83 of Shane Terry, and he's shown great strength so far this evening. I think he's got really good pace. It seemed like he was really starting to pick up on that long run. In fact, when we had that longer set of laps, he got on by Riley Thompson just by surely working by that 56 car and was poised to start going after Alan Elwood and Justin Rowden. This 83 might be the guy to watch if we do get a string of laps in here. If we keep having this kind of start-stop going on, you, I think, are in a really good boat with Justin Rowden. I think that 21 car, a solid choice, of course, has, I want to say, led the most laps, or is right there with Alan Elwood. We'll check on that stat. 18 laps led then for Justin Rowden. Yes, that is currently the most in this race.
And he'll probably be growing that total this restart unless Elwood has anything to say about it. 21's really good at restarting. He's pretty much gotten the lead on every other restart except for that last one, even though he was likely to get the lead into turn 3 if that went green, as we're going to see sort of a whole new race. I think we've already seen a bunch of aggression in the first half of this 60-lap dash. I think we're going to see even more as we're coming to only 26 laps to go on this restart. So we're going to see a lot more people who are just around the borderline of a top 10 trying to work their way to the front. The guys like Pistorius, Stafford, Simpson, Tom Bourne, who made that wrong strategy call earlier. You're going to see a lot of drivers start maybe throwing desperation moves into corners.
I think absolutely. The intensity ramps up lap after lap, and usually you're talking about, in this race for fuel, talking about getting closer to lap 150 before they start getting after it, because this is usually an endurance race for these drivers. No, tonight it's about lap 30 where these guys are going to start going after it. Wow, Justin Rowden, a great start. Terrian looked on the outside, thought better of it, ducked back in behind Alan Elwood, and they'll race off into turn number 1, lap 35 now of 60. Down the backstretch they work, and everybody just kind of, I think, settling back in for a moment. I think they might wait a lap or so before they really battle here, Connor. I say that, and Bresci working the bottom side. That number 24, I think, might get that spot. Elwood grabs a piece of the safer barrier, and he's going to lose second place to the 24 car. We looked right on past that 24, even though he was sitting in third. Thomas Bresci moved forward.
I sort of mentioned it at the very beginning of this broadcast. His first oval win in fuel, he finally did it here at Charlotte just a season ago. So he might be able to try to duplicate that again as a new competitor at the front. Justin Munsell trying to work on the 83 of Terrian, but that 24 is looking really strong. I don't think there's much damage to the 5 of Elwood. I think he just scraped it as they're getting really stacked up second on back as the 5 is going to go back for second with the help from Terrian.
A big move then from Elwood to try and go back after Bressie. He will get right down to the inside, pushes up a little bit in center, gets it right back down for a late apex. The 24 going to have the run down the straightaway, and they will fight. They will drag race down the backstretch at Charlotte. Off into turn number 3 they go. And Munsell there in the top 5. You mentioned him going to work on the 83 car. In behind those 2 on the bottom side. But just nowhere to go for these guys. They're kind of in lines almost like a cup race.
Bressie might have tapped the wall the same way the 5 of Elwood did, but I still think both of them are clean away from damage, as they're still going to be side by side. The 5 misses the bottom a little bit. Bressie pinching him as hard as he can to that bottom line. A bit of damage to that right front fender, but I think overall he's all right, as we might look 3 wide. Terrian, not aggressive, but he's going to go for 3 wide for second place. He's trying to back out, can't do it, almost contact. He finally backs out.
That was optimistic, to say the least, from Shane, I think. That might have been a little bit too aggressive. We're still over 20 laps to go. If we're within 5 to go, I like that, but it might just be a little bit too early to look. That said, you know what? It could have forced those 2 into a mistake, and he could have grabbed those spots, but you're also risking your own car when you're doing that as, well, I guess as that catalyst. What could happen? Some damage on the left rear of the 24.
Spinner in the back. Bronson Stafford into the inside wall. No yellow yet as he taps that left front onto the inside wall. We're going to stay green.
There is the 61. Everybody keeps racing, and we'll stay after it up here in the front. And Bressie going to look the outside of Elwood, trying to go back for second place. He had the run initially, and it just kind of stalled out. Now he'll look low.
Big crossover. He looks to the bottom of Elwood. Just barely thinks better if it gets cut off by Elwood a little bit there, as Elwood actually gave a bit of a bump to Justin Rout, and there for the lead as things are already getting physical. We're not even 20 to go yet.
We're coming to 20 to go this time by Terrian down to the inside. Oh my, the net coat, the save! Thomas Bressie. Oh, they're stacking up though. Pastorius, Buchanan. Oh no!
Pastorius into the barrels on the entrance to pit road as Buchanan spins. The yellow is out, and I think we've had our second virtual death of the day as Pastorius. His day's done just because he can't even get out of the tire barriers, the pit barrels, excuse me.
Oh my gosh. Speechless.
Man.
Absolutely speechless.
That was a 2-corner wreck there. We got to start with the Terrian and Bressie. I didn't look at you said netcode. I didn't see it initially. No doubt about that. That's definitely netcode, and a great save by Bressie. And Pastorius checked up to stay off of Riley Thompson, his teammate. The 42 into the 20, then the 40 gets turned, and Pastorius just literally the wrong place, wrong time.
Yeah, there was undoubtedly some space between the 83 and 24 when they initially made contact. Let's go even further and try and take a look back at things in a better way. We're gonna watch this again with Bressie and Terrian, and certainly there's no way they were touching there. Massey doesn't quite get the message that they're checking up on the bottom side, and ends up in the back of the 9 car. The 9 ends up then windshield deep. Into the wall.
It stacked up about 6 rows back. The 40 got turned at the very back of that entire line.
And we'll ride on board with Hayden Pastorius. This is a big one.
Meanwhile, really no one pit that time. Everyone might be out of tires. It's not a view you're going to like to see. Once again, you can see clearly netcode at the front. The 56, Riley Thompson, his teammate gets loose. He's trying to let Riley gather it up, but Nick Massey and others behind don't get the memo, and Pastorius just can't turn it right in time to get away from those barrels.
And in past years, Connor, that wall wasn't there. It's only there because of the addition of the Roval. And I believe that does get taken out, right, for the Coke 600 in real life. I can't recall, actually. I went in 2019, and I don't recall if it was there or not. I don't even recall from last year in 2020. But I want to say that gets taken out for the real races here at Charlotte on the oval. It's only there for the Roval.
Yeah, I think I could actually look off the top of my just because I have the luxury of being able to look it up. I can try to look it up right now, but I'm with you. I don't think that's there because obviously that would just be a big safety concern. I will check to make sure, but definitely unfortunate for Pastorius. He was running decent. One of those guys we were talking about where maybe borderline top 10, he could try to make an aggressive move, and he was looking good for a long time there, and literally wrong place, wrong time. Nothing you can do about it there.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's just, you go back 3-4 years and there's no possibility even of that happening. That's such an odd way for that to happen. That's bizarre to me. I'm still a bit speechless from this.
I am actually looking at the replay from last year's 600, and you know what? That wall does actually stay there. So that is not a glitch in iRacing. It does stay there.
I was there just this past weekend with Legends Nation TV, and it was there for that. But of course, it's there from the Roval in October. I wouldn't be surprised if they just wouldn't go through the trouble of removing that, and it's actually used for a bit of safety now with the Legends Road Course that is being run for winter heat at Charlotte Motor Speedway currently. I don't know, trying to rack my brain. I didn't think it was permanent even for oval races, but apparently it is, and still, I gotta be a bit sour about that one if you're Hayden Pastorius. You go back to early 2018, and that wall just doesn't exist. Oh boy.
Yeah, it's really tough for him, and it's tough for him in the points. Obviously, he has another race to make it up, but he's sitting down there. He was tied for 20th in the points tonight, and there's just no points to be gained after that. He might have gotten decent halfway points. He's actually back there running after he had to tow away from those barrels, so he'll run again and try to salvage what he can. He's already 2 laps down. He'll be in line for the lucky dog if we get more yellows, but it's already just a really tough outing after such an unfortunate incident. Literally nothing he could do there, as we're going to get 1 to green, finally.
Now, if you're just joining us and missed what happened last week at Indianapolis, well, that race was scratched after issues with the, we'll just say connection issues for the entire field and some others on the iRacing.com service. And unfortunately, it has pushed us here on the Fuel Mission 22 Premier Series to running a double this evening. I say unfortunately, Connor, but I love this opportunity to run a double race, a double header, a 1-2 punch, again, a duel, whatever you want to call it. 2 60-lap races being run through the iRacing Heat format, so technically this is being counted as Heat 1, then we'll go into a feature race, whatever. That's how the drivers see it. How we see it is 2 opportunities for a whole lot of points. Halfway points already paid out at the completion of lap 30. They'll get full race points at the completion of lap 60, and they'll do it all over again with the top 15 invert for the start of race number 2 on the night. And it's giving us tons of great strategy to talk about, tons of great racing. This is, I think, so far, a massive success and something to at least be looked at in some capacity. Not necessarily replacing the usual 300-miler here in the Fuel Premier Series at Charlotte, but something to look at for the future.
Definitely something to look at in the future for sure, as it's been interesting so far. I'll get only more and more crazy from here, as we're going to see the green flag rodent's going to go early again, get by the 5 of Alan Elwood, as we'll see Justin Munsell in third now, 83 of Terry and Pitt, maybe for damage repair. He'll try to work his way back to the front with only 16 laps to go.
Diving back down to the bottom side in turn 1 is just about everybody that can get there. I think the bottom's certainly preferred. You can make the top, the middle work just so slightly. I see that you're talking about back there. Oh my, a gaggle out of turn number 2.
I think it was Brent Jones who spun. He also had another driver who got really loose out of 2. They all saved it, all keep it good as people are scrambling. We're almost 4 wide at the very, very back of the field as all types of drivers scrambling for positions right now.
Here is some of what's going on, and there's some battling into one. Hensley on the outside, Massey's in this, Stafford as well. The 25 of Chambliss is up here. A whole lot of cars going for not a whole lot of racing room. One car without his nose, that is Brian Chambliss on the outside line. They're starting to get it sorted out. This is about behind 16th.
Riley Thompson going for 14th. One thing to remember, this is pretty much around where where the invert is. As we've got Hensley into the outside wall, he's able to save it. This is around where the invert is, so a lot of drivers trying to get to that 15th position right now, just to maybe start on pole or at least the front row for this race. That's Sarah Tessum who has that 15th position right now.
This is pole position here at about 15 laps when we reset and go for race number 2. But you know what? Who wants that position? It's Danny Ware on the bottom side with a clean number 19, mostly clean. It at least has all the body parts on it as opposed to the 25 of Chambliss. He's going to drive down to the bottom side of 4, and he looked, but Tessum closes the door across the start finish.
And there's nowhere to go. You don't want to go to the outside. It's going to stack up again. We've seen it at least 2 or 3 times stacking up into a corner. They'll keep it straight this time. Nick Massey able to check up this time. That 19 is so much faster than the 70 out of the corners. Finally going to get under as we got big blocks by Robert Kenny at the back.
And this is what would be...
Sorry, we're 3 wide at the back. I just jumped forward, and we had a 3 wide battle. It's Shane Terrian. Not someone who's known to be aggressive, but he made his way 3 wide past Tom Bourne and Zach Passon. He's already up to 9th position.
And here's the 83 of Shane Terrian. I was looking up and down. You said at the back at first, then I hear 9th place. It's like, oh, well, there we go. Up front. And, oh, there's Lakatos, who got that halfway bonus of 10 points for finishing in first. Well, crossing the line for lap 30 in first. We even had a stage caution, if you will, that we don't usually throw in here in the Field Premier Series. But just perfect timing there for Lakatos to save him, give him 10 points, and allow him to pit without penalty. The 14 in this battle as well. Will Roberts on the outside on the 3. That's David Mott Jr. there in the 14. I had to rack my brain for the name at first. And Terrian, I think, has better tires than these guys. Is just kind of waiting for an opportunity. It's so tough to pass again here at Charlotte. And a very fast number 83 just kind of mired back with, well, 11 to go coming to 10.
Yeah, he's trying to find his way back up there, but he is starting to run out of time, as this time by will be 10 laps to go. As we're almost they are 2 by 2. Terrian would have actually tapped the wall there, as he's going to drop back as the yellow's out. Another big wreck. It's out of turn 4 this time. I believe Robert Kenny's involved. Bronson Stafford coming back. Zach Buchanan also involved.
Yeah, Bronson Stafford with big problems across the start-finish line, slid across the line. And I dare say Zach Buchanan a little bit heated under the helmet. I believe that was a key to the race. What was that, at New Hampshire that you and Kyle talked about? So certainly Zach Buchanan a bit upset. We're going to get a whole lot of foreground on what happens here. The purple number 40 Buchanan up ahead. This is Stafford we're looking at, moving up to the 19 of Danny Ware, who was battling at one point for that 15th spot with Sarah Tessem. And I think it moved up, and we'll see them side by side at a 3, and it's all going to happen out of turn 4.
Yeah, we'll see if the 19's involved. 19's going to zoom by the 40, and here comes Stafford, who is involved. 40's trying to get to the bottom.
There it is.
Stafford didn't give Buchanan a break there, and Robert Kenny just had nowhere to go.
And I think that explains the distaste from the number 40 car towards the 61 of Stafford. It's tough to say what you do in that position as a driver. You're kind of coming up to 10 to go, and Buchanan's having problems. He just kind of backs up. And, I mean, obviously nothing intentional from Bronson Stafford. It's just a matter of, do you lift right there in one of the fastest parts of the racetrack, or do you try and keep racing and hope that the hole opens up?
Yeah, it's tough. He wanted to go. Stafford's been trying to recover from the earlier incident he had, but just did not want to give that one up at all. That was for a round. That might have actually been for the 15th position as well. So that's basically for pole position in race 2. And he saw daylight to the bottom. Buchanan closed that gap, but Stafford just didn't want to lift. Had to run. And sometimes when you have a run like that, you just instinctively just cannot lift. It's just wired into your brain that if you have a run, you're taking it no matter what. And that was a case of that where he just could not lift in time. He just didn't want to lift at the same time, and eventually the wreck happened, and he got himself involved at the same time, as we had a number of drivers actually come to pit road that time. Justin Roden, the race leader, actually came down to pit road, while the 5 of Alan Elwood stayed out with about 5 to go on the restart. I can't believe he stayed out, actually. Or I can't believe he pit, excuse me.
Yeah, this is mind-boggling to me, anyways. I don't know why you would come in for tires if you're Justin Rowden. I get it if you're around 10th or so, and you take the penalty of going back to, I mean, this is 19th for Justin Rowden. You only fall a handful of positions, if maybe not even 10th. If you're around 15th, I think it's advantageous for guys like Casey Lakatos to come in and get tires, but I'll be honest, I'm not sure I understand the call for Justin Rowden to pit out of the race lead. I guess he's racing for the pole in race number 2, but why would you give up the points of winning?
I don't know. To be fair, he's not in the points battle by any means. He's only ran 2 races, so his thing is only for wins, but even then, it's not a really winning strategy. Only like 6 of the top 15 came in, and the rest were just to repair damage. David Mott Jr. is the highest up driver other than the leader to come in, so I'm very surprised by that. He came into pit road. Elwood looked like he was faking to come in, and then he turned right, and so many other people took the hard right with him. So that might be a race-losing decision. We're going to get the restart with only 5 laps to go, and I don't understand how he's going to get through the field that quickly. He can definitely get the 15th since he's restarting 19th, but definitely an odd one.
I'll tell you what, it's a bold strategy, Connor. We'll see how it works out for him. Coming to 6 laps to go, and we're still under caution. How about that? So we're only going to have 5 to go, like you had said, when we go back green flag racing. Very, very odd decision. Hey, we'll see if it does work out for him. We'll re-highlight then under caution flag some of the keys to the race we talked about. And one of those is finishing 15th in race number 1. Now that position currently would belong to Brent Jones in the number 89. But I'm sure that will change hands before this race is done. You see Zach Buchanan in the conversation, Bronson Stafford there as well. Up ahead, you see Brad Slaughter, and is that the 32 of Mike Hurley? He's, you know what? Actually, I will say the front end of that car being just the strips of pink. At first, with no light on it, it didn't really look as vibrant as pink to me. I almost thought he had no nose on that car. No, that car's fine. I was going to say he's got a lot of damage, but no, the 32 is okay. Just the Good Smile livery throwing me off.
You think that car's damaged? You got to see what Brian Chambliss has been working with, and also Braxton DeWeese. He hasn't had a front end for half of this race, and he's just holding on. As the one car at the back that you see untouched is the guy who's basically been dominating the second half of this race, Roden. I won't say it's not doable because he has way fresher tires than the majority of the drivers in front of him, other than maybe someone like Shane Tarian. But 19th to first, this is one of those things that would almost be like a lightning challenge in NASCAR Thunder 2003. 19th to first in 5 laps. It's something like that. You never think it's going to be something you actually have to do legitimately in iRacing. So it's going to be a tough task for him.
No, this is an odd one for sure from Rowden. We're I think on the same page that he is not. And what's interesting to me now, if I'm a driver in this position with Justin Rowden, I'm thinking about the car directly ahead of me. We know Zach Buchanan has had some run-ins lately. We'll just leave it at that. We know he is one that is definitely fiery. He will let you know his opinion, be it with the race car or words, and he's going to race and give it his all. I would be pretty concerned sitting in the position of this 21 car on this restart with so few laps to go. Not that Zach Buchanan's going to wreck him, but more so just that he's going to race him really, really hard and possibly prevent Rowden from getting up there and battling for that 15th spot, which is, again, the pole through the invert for race number 2. But, hey, we can talk about these guys up front coming to the green flag once more. Alan Elwood leading the way, Justin Munsell second place, then Bressie Simpson and Terry under top 5. We're off and away once more at Charlotte. And you see Bressie and Munsell side by side out of turn number 2. They are...
Oh, we got a wreck at the back.
Oh, no,
Will Roberts spinning off of turn number 2, and the yellow's out again.
Well, it's rinse and repeat then for these drivers. Thankfully, I don't see too much damage. Maybe some left rear damage. Man, might get a shot. I dare say he had help on this one. He was one of the drivers who had just pitted and opted to go for tires on this one. And we'll see what happens to him and the number 3 team out of turn number 2. Already, Rowden was 3 wide and passing Buchanan. That backs up Dweese on the top side. And Roberts is fighting to get in line. He got Mott behind him, and Roberts just got loose.
Just loose. That's cold tires. That's what you call cold tires. That will happen from time to time. You just lose grip. You don't have the heat in the tires that you need to get through a corner like that. And he just got loose. Nowhere for David Mott Jr. to go. He got away with not too much damage. Same for Will Roberts, who somehow didn't hit the outside wall. But that's just a case of cold tires, and what that does is it turns it over to a green-white checker, most likely. Yes, if we do have green-white checkers, I don't even know.
We can. It's a matter of whether or not race admins have elected to do so this evening. Again, something brand new for the Fuel Mission 22 Premier Series. We're learning just like everybody else as we go here, and I'm sure the drivers are as well. I don't think this was expected in this kind of race. I mean, Charlotte is usually one where you try to achieve a whole lot of green flag racing. Not to say that we haven't had great racing, but we've had a few stoppages here at the end. It's forcing this chance to have a green-white checkered. I mean, we're going to, of course. We know cautions take a few laps here on iRacing, and it's currently lap 58 of 60. So to give everybody their opportunity to come down the pit lane and get reformed and get the free pass and all of that sorted out, we are going to work, I believe, up to or past this lap 60 mark under caution. We'll see if we extend it or not.
I think I'm trying to look for the heat. As far as the heat, the amount of minutes it had, it's obviously 60 laps, but the time limit was 50 minutes, and we are, as far as my counter says, we're past that. We haven't seen the white flag yet, but I'm just wondering if time might end up ending this race.
That's a great point. They may be right on that edge, because of course you got to give them a few minutes until the race actually rolls green, and we could be on that edge right now. I wonder, much like you, if this could... the sim could extend here for one restart to at least finish under green. It depends on the settings that the series is going for. It may also let the caution play out. It's a matter of how iRacing has kind of built that in to work. And I guess we will find out a whole lot here in the coming moments. Of course, the drivers, I'm sure they're all very well aware of what's going on. They get notified by those certain kinds of things. But when you join the session as a spectator and you call one of these races, iRacing isn't so kind to you.
Yeah, someone, Sarah Tessum, said on the backstretch that the time was 1 minute left. That was down the backstretch, so if anything, this would be the white flag if it did end under time.
And the laps have not extended.
Think it will.
The laps have not extended. We are running to 60. They would have extended that time to give us an extra lap or whatever we needed to finish this race. Pace lights are still on. I think this is definitely, yes, there. The time limit just kicked in. We've been notified on the top left there that this should be the final lap. And I think this will be it. So you can kind of see the running order on the left side. Alan Elwood should walk away with this victory. And then Justin Munsell, Thomas Bresci, Chad Simpson, Shane Terrian, the rest of the way. Let's actually take a look at it a different way here. Assuming this is the end of the race, let's take a look through race results right quick as they run. And Alan Elwood on top, then Munsell, Bresci, Simpson, and Terrian, as I'd mentioned. Riley Thompson checks in at 6th place. Michael Stroll in 7th. Tom Bourne 8th. Nick Massey would finish 9th, and Danny Ware 10th, as long as this all holds.
Then you got 11th through 15th, where the invert's going to take place. Davey Hendricks, 11th. Sarah Tessum, 12th. Brad Slaughter Jr., 13th. Mike Hurley, 14th. And lucky number 61, the guy who kind of caused that second-to-last incident as it runs, Bronson Stafford, is 15th, and he will get the pole for the second race alongside Mike Hurley. And Brent Jones is the odd man out, 16th. Roden, that's going to be tough for him because he led in this entire race. He couldn't even get back to an invert spot. He's 17th. Buchanan, Lakatos, and Mott Jr. round out the top 20 as we do, I believe, come to the checkered flag here.
This will be our checkers. So Passon, Chambliss, Kenny, Deweese, Roberts make up the top 25. Then Zacuna 26th and Pastorius in 27th. It looks like he got back on the racetrack unbelievably after his incident. Hensley then in 28th. Tellier in 29th. Tebben in 30th. And the back three are Rodriguez, Gritzko, and Kish. And well, as you can see, it's just taken us to our warm-up session. That's it. That is race number 1.
It was Mitch Welker and Casey Shue rounded out all 35, so they were 34th and 35th. So now we get a little bit of a break in between races. A 10-minute warm-up is basically for all the drivers to get a little bit of a break, take a leak, get something to drink, something to eat, all that. And another thing to note, this is not going to be a completely different race. As you can see, the lights are on right now. It's going to be one hot night.
I like that reference, and we are going to try and get a chat with some of those notable guys from race number 1, of course, and a big win then for Alan Elwood. That is huge for the number 5. He's now a 3-time winner, and I mean that race, technically in iRacing, was a heat race. It felt like a heat race. It went by so quickly, and that's a big opportunity then for Alan Elwood to pick up that win.
Yeah, that's one thing. He probably doesn't even feel like he won a real race because of how small these races are. But that's a big points day. He got big points in this stage, and he definitely walked away with the most points in that race, along with the race win. So he's the only multi-time winner, and he's just extended that mark. Everyone else has 1 win, and now he has number 3. And he has a big decision. He could go back-to-back if he can, but he's got a long way to go, 15th on up.
So how is that for race number 1 on the evening? We still have 60 more laps of racing action to look forward to here, Connor. And I feel like it's only getting started. We talked about it earlier on that race number 2 is really going to ramp up from race number 1. We already saw, I think it's fair to say, a lot of calamity in race number 1. What do we expect now with the lights turned on?
Well, I think we're going to really see a lot more action, likely. You're going to see a lot more drivers scrambling for position. We saw all of the yellows that happened. I think people got concerned that people got concerned that track position is going to be key. If you pit at the wrong time, you might get stuck with bad track position. You might get caught up in one of those big wrecks out of turn 2 or turn 4 when we saw them. So I think we're going to see a lot more track position being valued instead of tires. Someone like Tom Board is going to make that decision he did after 5 laps to come down pit road. Everyone's going to value a top 5 spot rather than fresh 4 tires.
Yeah, and as a driver, you've got to prepare yourself to look at these races a little bit differently sometimes when you're given this kind of wild card. It's tough to get in the mentality that even though it's only 60 laps, it only took an hour or less to run. You've got to make sure you prioritize lap number 60, and that might not be so bad on a 2.5 mile super speedway, even a road course, of course, but when it comes down to a 1.5 mile on an intermediate track, lap 60 feels really early. That's even before 100 miles, so that's pretty insane for these drivers to try and consider. We're working on getting drivers along with us here from the top 3, and we'll do so as soon as we can. But in the meantime, Connor, I'm looking forward to race number 2. We keep talking about it. Who's your pick? Before we even get that far, who's your pick to win this one?
I think my pick is going to be likely Shane Terrian. I'm going to go and say Shane Terrian. I think he was very consistent. If that race went green to the end 5 laps, I think he had it won. He had fresh tires. Not the rodent fresh tires, but it was fresher than the leaders ahead of him. I think he would have made those passes, and I think he's going to be Mr. Consistent again. I think we're going to see a cleaner race, and I think he's going to be the guy who consistently gets his way to the front. So I think the 83 is going to win this one.
Well, he is atop the practice charts currently. Tom Bohr in second place, then Robert Kenny and Bronson Stafford, and we could even pull this up for you to check out as these guys get warmed up. You see Stafford there in 4th, and Massey, Slaughter, Simpson, Shu, Passon, and Finian making up our top 10 currently as they sit on the speed charts. A few cars towards the bottom, it looks like maybe not wanting to go out there and get laps in our warm-up session between races, but I think these are pretty valuable laps. I think this is a pretty valuable point in time that, again, they could just be taking a nice little break. Of course, stretching their legs, something they don't usually get to do.
Yeah, it's definitely an odd feeling to get when you're trying to, when these are real races and you got to be prepared for them, and you usually don't get a break. You really only see breaks only a few times. Obviously, the stages in real life are sort of breaks, but the only time we had real breaks were, I think, only once or twice in the Coke 600 a few years back in 09 and one other year. So it's definitely something these drivers aren't used to, and I think they're going to take advantage of it.
Yeah, certainly. If I was in their position, I'd be getting up, like you said at one point, make a bathroom run. Maybe even run out to the kitchen, grab a drink, whatever you may do. I mean, just anything to kind of, I guess, reset your mind. This is a whole new race, and especially if you were one of those guys getting caught up in that in some of those little spurts in race 1, I think it's a really good opportunity for you to clear yourself out mentally and just get ready for 60 more laps. Got to go at it with a new attitude. And I will say, if you go back and watch the first season of Fuel Man, I definitely know how it feels to get caught up in some of those incidents, to get a little bit heated. But having this opportunity would be really, really killer in that position to just sit back and reset yourself.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting position to put yourself into, and excuse me here. I'm really just really interested in if this track is going to change at all, because we're seeing that it's under the lights now. It's not during the day, so this track is going to react a lot different to certain moves. You might not have had a lot of grip to make a move at a turn 4 or in the center of turns 3 and 4. With the nighttime, it's the right time. You're going to see a lot more grip on this track, and the heat is not going to build up as much. You're going to see, I think, a lot more crazy racing. But that being said, I still think it's going to go green for the most of the way, but you're going to see a lot more action because of how cool this track is.
Well, let's ask reigning race winner on the evening. That's weird to say. We will ask Alan Elwood. And Alan, you go out there and make yourself now a 3-time winner of the series. You're the first of 2, the first of 3 as well. How's it feel?
Oh, it feels good. I feel like I lucked into that one, though. I was really surprised that Justin did it, so I'll take it. I mean, we ran up front the whole time pretty much, so I'll feel like I was there and had the opportunity. Just kind of lucked out with the time running out.
So Connor bringing up the point that the track is going to change a ton. Of course, temps dropping, and well, There's no sun in the sky. You're relying on the lights to see around this place. How's the track feeling so far?
To be honest, I haven't actually made a lap yet. I went to grab a drink and stuff, so I'm not entirely sure, though. I did kind of make sort of an out lap, and it felt like it was a little more grippy. But, you know, it's going to be interesting coming from the midfield, try to get through people and see how the car reacts. You know, being that in the first race I really wasn't in the midfield at all, so it's going to be different for sure.
Absolutely. Starting 15th. Best of luck to you out there. Who do you have to shout out real quick before we let you go and get ready for race number 2?
I'll just give a shout out to my boys at VRA. We're digging. All of them are going to be, besides me, starting in the top 5 this race. So I'm looking forward to seeing them up front and see if we can pull out another victory for Virtual Racing Alliance.
Absolutely. Congratulations on the race 1 win. I'm sure we'll be talking to you towards the end of the night as well, and go out there and do your best.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
That's Alan Elwood winning race number 1. We don't have a whole lot of time here between races, but we'll try and grab Justin Munsell as well, as he finished 2nd place. Unfortunately, it looks like Thomas Pressey might have to wait. Connor, Justin's all yours.
Hey, Justin Munsell, you got a copy?
I gotcha.
All right, 10-4. You did a really good job. You were kind of barely in the top 10 for a lot of that race there, but right at the very end, you were able to get through there and somehow get all the way up to a 2nd place finish at the very end there. How did you get all the way up to 2nd with all the yellows happening?
Well, I had to pit early on that first caution. I had some damage to the rear end. Just a little issue happened, and then got some new tires. Worked my way up from, I think, 17th or 18th all the way up to the top 10. And then as the cautions went on, people started pitting, people started fading out. Found myself in the top 5, and after that, just got my way up to 2nd.
It was a really crazy drive out of nowhere. You kind of got up to 2nd there, almost contended for the win. As we're going to go to the 2nd race now. Nighttime might be the right time. Do you think the nightfall going over the track is going to play into your strength?
We'll see. Doing some quick trial runs. It's a little bit more snug, so we'll see how much confidence everybody else has around me. I'm kind of afraid that with all this new grip, that there's going to be a lot more really tough driving out there. So we'll see how much it plays to my strength.
We hope to see you get back up to the front. We know you're starting a bit farther back with the invert. Anyone else you want to shout out right before we let you go?
I'll just shout out my team, Luminary. There's a bunch of us out there, but it's a good team. We race all the time, and they're putting a good showing out today. And then I want to thank Will Roberts, and then I want to thank you guys for putting on the fantastic broadcast.
We appreciate you for that shout out. And obviously, Will Roberts gets a lot of things together, and your team obviously doing a great job helping you get up to P2. Hope to see that 98 machine, up at the front by the end of race 2.
Thank you.
So Justin Munsell takes
like
silver honors this evening in race number 1. We get to do it all over again. And Connor, again, very much looking forward to race number 2. This is going to get exciting as the sun has dropped behind the horizon over the greater Charlotte area, and we are ready to go for race 2 on the evening. Boy, things are going to light up, and this is going to be electric, I'd say. Here's your starting grid for race number 2. Starting first, Bronson Stafford finished 15th. He gets promoted to the pole position for this one. Mike Hurley, 2nd place. Brad Slaughter starting from 3rd. Sarah Tessum starting from 4th. She'd almost place herself in that pole position. Not so quite, but still up in the top 5. Then Davey Hendricks, Danny Ware, Nick Massey, and Tom Bourne make up your top 8.
Then they get to round out the top 10, Michael Stroll and Riley Thompson, who are just outside the top 5 in race 1. Then they get Shane Terrian, who did get 5th, alongside Chad Simpson in the 42. Then Thomas Pressey could have won that race 13th. Justin Munsell, we talked to him. Runner-up, he's 14th. And Alan Elwood, a 3-time winner now in Fuel. He starts 15th with the invert. And the first man out, Brent Jones, at 16th alongside him.
Starting 17th, Justin Rowden, who led so much in race number 1, had the most laps led when he came in and pitted so oddly towards the end of the race. Will now roll off from 17th spot, Zach Buchanan in 18th. Casey Lakatos 19th, David Mott Jr. In 20th position. There we go in the 14 car. Zach Passon rolls off 21st. Chambliss to his outside. Then Kenny and Deweese make up the top 24 this evening.
They get back to 25th. Will Roberts alongside Finney DeCuna, 25th and 26th. Hayden Pastorius, released from Midfield Care Center somehow. He's going to be alongside Tyler Hensley. There's 27th and 28th. And rounding out the top 30, Mike Tellier, who had a big crash, Joseph Tebben, who really didn't have a good start. He's P30. Then Matthew Rodriguez and Christian Gritzko for 31st and 32nd. Just quickly to round out the back, Ryan Kish, Mitch Welker, and Casey Shue at the very back. Kish and Welker, I don't believe they've stayed for the race. And Zach Buchanan, I don't think he stayed as well. So we're down to, I believe, 32 cars for this race.
So a few cars with early exits this evening, not wishing to roll for race number 2 on what has been a very interesting day so far here for the Fuel Mission 22 Premier Series. Ready to go back racing. Bronson Stafford going to lead us to the green flag. Mike Hurley and company in tow. And we're going to reset, go for 60 more laps, and do it all over again. Coming to the green flag for race number 2 here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Bronson Stafford in control. We are off and away for the second time from Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Oh, we got Davey Hendricks going around. Michael Stroll's involved. A big crash already. They didn't even make it at the turn 2. It's Mike Hurley going upside down, up and over. Pastorius involved. Tyler Hensley as well.
I think that might have actually been Riley Thompson. I don't think Pastorius took the start of the race with the field, and that may have been the best decision he's made all day long.
Nah, the 9 does have damage. That all started at the very front. That was a bit of a problem. You get new contenders at the front who weren't used to starting at the front with colder tires, not taking it easy because they're at the front, and I think it was Mike Hurley who spun first, and Davey Hendricks did as well.
Stuff in the front, yeah, Mike Hurley. We'll take one more look here. It's so tough with so much going on, so many cars involved to pinpoint who to look at, but oh my gosh, I do see what you're saying there with Pastorius. It had scored him at first. When they went off into turn 1, I looked down at timing and scoring, and for some reason, Hayden Pastorius was listed in first place. I thought maybe he had started from the pit lane. No, not so much, and there it is, as they all just pile up.
Tessum, it's easier to name who isn't in there. Like Sarah Tessum. Hurley obviously went upside down. Pastorius, I think, got ran into by Tyler Hensley, braking for the incident. Trying to see myself, Will Roberts might have gotten some damage. Tyler Hensley's already out of a race. Trying to see who doesn't have damage. Danny Ware's going to come down to pit road. He has a big damage, and he's in 5th. Tom Bourne has no front end. Shane Tarrant, the points leader, unfortunate for him. He's got really big front end damage, so that might play a wrench into the points for tonight as even more drivers pitting for repairs. Look at all these guys.
It's a very short list of drivers not involved, at least much, much shorter than you might expect. Danny Ware, after making some headway there in race number 1, he's involved in this, but he gets away mostly unscathed, I think. Just a little bit of damage to his rear end, maybe some to the front end as well, but not as bad as it definitely could have been. You see the 54 of Hendricks in there as well. Many, many cars in the pit lane. Oconus and Mott Jr. taking a trip down. Kenny there as well. Boy, when it happens in lap 1, it happens big.
Yeah, no doubt about that one. And you see all these drivers, like half the field that's left pretty much pitting for damage repairs. One driver who does not have to pit for damage repairs is Justin Roden. He started 17th, and he was in the middle of all that, but somehow he was able to avoid all of that. So one of the fastest cars in the race, able to survive that. Alan Elwood as well, he was able to survive as well. So those two are good. The only problem, Shane Tarian, who might be the 3rd best car, is also going to have to repair some damage. Another thing, Bressy's also free as well. Michael Stroll's in 5th, but he has no rear end, so we'll see how that plays out with his damage.
So, lap number 3 of race number 2, and already talking about some big, big headlines to start this one out. In fact, let's take a look from the nose of Thomas Bressy's machine at the car in front. That is Michael Stroll. Already without a rear bumper cover. If this was Daytona or Talladega, he would be, black flagged, forced to come into the pit lane. Thankfully, he does not have to do so. And, it wouldn't happen on iRacing anyways. But, no, he'll be allowed to continue racing. Just a lot of damage to the back end of the car. It shouldn't affect his performance all that much, if at all. But it certainly could be something to keep in mind there with the number 8 car. He's restarting 5th place. He's got Tessa, Massey, Slaughter Jr., and Stafford up ahead. And I think he is the first of our damaged race cars that made it through that and will continue racing. Did not pit. And we'll see how it pays off.
Yeah, not the only driver with damage to not pit, as Sarah Tessum has a bit of damage on the right front of her machine as well. Not as banged up as Stroll, though, and everyone else really behind him are clean. I think the highest running person I'm looking at is Bressy, who is 3rd. obviously 13th from the invert. And then you got Elwood, the winner, right behind him. Justin Munsell trying to get through there. And obviously, like we're talking about, Justin Rodin trying to make things happen after a disappointing first race. So we still got new contenders at the front. Some of the new contenders took themselves out of contention early on. And we'll see if this restart is a bit safer. And we'll see if everyone is up to speed on cold tires this time.
Yeah, thankfully the top three from the previous race, they get through unscathed. We know they've got great machines this evening. We'll see how they do in race number 2. A whole lot of unknowns going into this doubleheader this evening. We'll line them up. We'll try and do it again, hopefully this time, while making it through turn number 2 on lap number 5 now as they're off and away. Massey, a great restart in behind Stafford, and they'll race into turn 1.
And we'll have to just quickly look as how turns 1 and 2 goes. A lot of people got loose last time. We'll see what happens to the leaders this time. Stafford, Massey, Slaughter, Stroll, Sarah Tessam all through. Looks like the majority of the field, pretty much everyone's clear.
Munsell throwing up some sparks up out of the corner. He might have tagged the outside wall just barely. It may have also just been a bit of iRacing rendering issues there, but some sparks out of turn number 2. That's what's so nice about the nighttime, and of course the nighttime, the right time. Will Roberts pits out of turn number 4. He will come in for service off the restart. Wonder if that might have even been a penalty from the iRacing race control. Regardless, we keep racing. It's now lap 6 of 60.
We obviously got the race for the lead. Top 3, Stafford, Massey, Slaughter away from the pack. But the real race is between the guys who finished at the front of last race, like Alan Elwood, Justin Munsell, Thomas Bresci. They're racing each other to try to get to the front first. If you're the first one to get to the lead, you could easily win this race. And Elwood's looking to do that right now, but he's boxed behind Sarah Tessam and Chad Simpson as the 70 goes up the racetrack.
I think as we saw in race number 1, it's going to be important to get up there and get to the front early, get those laps led, and just kind of get some time under your belt up towards the front, especially getting those 10 points at halfway. That'll be ever important. You saw Lakatis get those 10 points at halfway in race number 1 and conveniently got the caution to come along with it, but of course that caution not scheduled. Elwood down to the bottom side of Simpson. He's going to take that spot away, I dare say, as that 5 car has just been on rails so far this evening. Into 5th, looking for 4th.
And Michael Stroll finally with that damage started to drop back after 2 or 3 lapses. That 5 machine already looking very strong. Gets under Sarah Tessam obviously a little earlier on and is already going for that next position. Trying to get up to the top 3 as the top 3 really put a gap on the rest of the field as they're scrambling 4th place on back as Elwood's clear. Munsell just about clear of Chad Simpson. Next one in line would be Thomas Bresci after he gets by the 8 of Michael Stroll, who's still ailing with no rear end, among other damage.
If you're 4th on back, it's a 3-course meal from Gapplebee's as the top 3 is pulled off and away. Now side by side is Stroll with the 70 car down low. Tessam fighting on by, and he's... Oh, look at Rowden. Justin Rowden is back up here in the top 10 after just being just outside of that top 15. Invert, he's fighting for things, and he's in behind that Toyota Supra of Tessam. Maybe looking low for turn 3. Yeah, he will, and he'll take it as well.
Checks up to make sure he doesn't run into the 70 of Tessam. Really stacks up the bottom, tebbing up the racetrack because of it. The 70 of Tessam really up the track, ailing on her damage as well, as just like Michael Stroll is just can't block at all. Here comes Zach Passon for a top 10 position as Rodin's finally clear of the majority of the rest of the field, as we see a lot of drivers still scrambling. It's about 9th on back now, as pretty much everyone else is single filed out.
Kenny's in this shot now as well. You see the 97 of Tellier making his now 2nd start of the season. Technically, still his 1st day of competition, though, within the Fuel Premier Series. And passing a bobble out of turn 4, hangs on to it. And Tessam starting to go the wrong direction, I think, as you mentioned. And that 70 car was looking pretty good there at the start, but of course got up front by virtue of the invert. Not to say that the 70 can't hang, but I think there's just a few cars that definitely want to go by and are certainly capable of it. And how about Finian here, running in 15th now, just kind of riding along, minding his P's and Q's. He's in behind the 60 of Tebben and just trying to get what he can.
Oh, David Mott Jr. up the racetrack. I think he's able to save it. The only reason Sarah Tessam is dropping this badly, obviously, like I said, the damage that she has, her car not working too well. We got 3 wide for about 19th, I think. Lakatis and Tarian splitting the 1 of Braxton DeWeese as they're still scrambling in this mid-pack position right now, as everyone else trying to scramble to get to the front, as the top 3 have still went unchanged. Really, the top 5 has been unchanged.
Those Toyotas overtake the Chevy. One looking low, and I think that was Finian looking low to try and get a spot, and they'll sort things out anyways. Riley Thompson heading the wrong direction. Of course, he got damage in that turn 1 pileup lap 1, turn 2 pileup, and starting to head towards back of the field. We got side-by-side up ahead as well, and it looks like that was a pink car. Now that was Tellier on the inside of Zach Pass, and these guys battling for what is the 9th place on the racetrack, just inside the top 10. And if this all holds, well, they will walk away with some points. There were some sparks there. Was that Simpson?
Could not tell if that was Simpson. He looks pretty clean. I think he might have gotten close to the wall, but no harm, no foul, as they're still really battling for this 9th position. Now it's Passon and Tellier still side by side behind the 21 of Justin Roden, who might just be saving his stuff a little bit. Meanwhile, a bit farther back, David Mott Jr. weight of a top Braxton DeWeese hit the apron as they're very tight 3 wide in turn number 2.
These guys simply will not give it up. Finally, Mott backs out. He's going to drop way back. Thankfully,
3 wide again. He's just going to back out.
Yeah, he just backs way out. He let the 84 go on by, and they will keep racing to see another lap, see another turn. I think at this point is all you can guarantee for these guys, as they are really mixing things up. Up towards the front, those positions are not changing. They were just outside that, I guess, radius of rendering. But Alan Elwood, we talked about him maybe running his tires off a little bit earlier. Well, his tires are coming in clutch right now as he catches the Elwood Designs number 81 car down the backstretch for 3rd place. 5 Toyotas up front, and, well, 4 of them at least are very, very close.
Yeah, we've seen the 5 do really well in the short run. Obviously, Justin Roden had the best of him on the long run, but no one else passed him. He never dropped lower than 2nd under Green Flag Racing. So with the 21, he's about 2 seconds behind Elwood right now. It's going to be tough for Roden to get there if this does go green to the end. But one thing that could help him is Brad Slaughter Jr. does not let Elwood get this position. This is still a battle for the top 3. No matter what, as Bronson Stafford has fallen back to Nick Massey, that could be a battle for the lead brewing. As Slaughter Jr. misses the bottom, he'll this time have to let Alan Elwood through.
I think that one was intentional. I think he knew the 5 car had caught him, and that wasn't a mistake. The 5 is faster right now. Lets Elwood go on by, and Elwood will fight onto the bronze step of the podium. Slaughter maybe catches the wall on entry. That seems like such a silly thing to do, but you know what? I've done it myself a million times. You're just trying to get the best arc you can, and if you miss it by even a ½ inch, you're making contact with the wall, and it sucks you in, and, well, forces the rest of your car into the wall. So it's easier to do than you might think, even though it seems kind of silly as you're getting prepped for the corner.
Yeah, getting prepped for the corner is just very, very difficult sometimes. I've done it before, and it's something that catches you by surprise. You got people jabbing back and forth in the race chat, but never mind that. It's really difficult because you're trying to get everything you can on entry. You're not just trying to go straight line entry. You might want to do that to save the tire, but you'd be giving up too much time. You really want to get the widest arc you can into the corner and then just wrap that blue and white line until you're out of the corner.
This is a shot I'm really enjoying right now from about the center of the car, if you're Alan Elwood, and just kind of watching those 2 up ahead, seeing what Elwood's doing with the wheel as well. This is a great point of view. You're able to really see a lot from this camera, actually mounted just to the right of the seat here in his Toyota Supra. And you can almost see from a driver's point of view what you're able to look at and what you're able to work with here. You're in behind the 20 car so closely of Nick Massey, and you really can't see Bronson Stafford up there. Of course, he's seated a little bit further to the left, so you might just be able to see the left side as we can now. But, man, you're just fighting to get down as low as you can, and if you do, Connor, you're actually able to put a little bit of air on that left front and help your car turn.
Well, you saw it right there. He had his left front all on that blue and white line, while the 20 kind of missed it a little bit. The 20 might even be letting Elwood by here, as we're going to see the 5 challenge with a lead here soon. I think Massey saw he was faster. He was getting to the bottom way better than that 20 machine was. And you can see Elwood is just on rails right now. He will not go anywhere other than that blue and white line in the corners, and he is hunting that lead away from Bronson Stafford, as the top 3 have kind of gapped Brad Slaughter Jr. Bresci got let by. Munsell let the 24 of Bresci by. And still looking at Justin Roden, still behind Chad Simpson, trying to gain as much time as he can, but not gaining enough quite yet, as Elwood looking low for the race lead in turn number 1.
Didn't make the move. Now he might. Stafford running the middle. Elwood goes low, and he's going to say thank you very much, and goes on, well, not so fast, actually, as Stafford fights back on the top side, and he has his help. I believe that would be a teammate in Massey, but now Massey goes low and will fight to the bottom. I think Stafford, again, just like Slaughter and maybe even Massey, realize the 5 car's faster. It's still early in the race, and you can still get some points, but you don't want to risk your race car. You just want to fight to this lap 30 halfway point, and, well, points literally for these drivers. You just want to fight, get as much as you can, and make sure you're still around to see the end of the race.
Yeah, we're going to see a lot more drivers pick up the action. No one's going to let anyone by anymore. Bresci kind of got blocked out of turn 4 by Brad Slaughter Jr., Rusty got really loose out of turn 2. He's not going to get blocked this time. He's charging to the field, trying to stay with the 5 of Elwood and get halfway points, as many as he can here, as he's looking to be inside, on the inside of Slaughter. Can't make it work quite as they stay side by side, as that lets Justin Munsell and Chad Simpson close up as well as that 21 of Justin Rode and sneaking his way into the picture.
And here we can see a wide shot of everybody battling through 1 and 2. So close there with Slaughter and Munsell. Munsell on the bottom. That black and green machine on the inside of the white and red 81. And a contact out of 2. They sorted out for 3. But Munsell might not be so easy on the 81. Finally gets him cleared. Simpson in. And that was definitely a missed corner, I think, there from Munsell. Slides up right in front of Slaughter. Almost gives him a shot in the shorts, but they get through it.
But here goes Chad Simpson. He's giving up the bottom by hitting the apron like that. If he's really be pushing the issue, if he turned low right now, as he won't, he'll give Simpson the bottom because he has no choice. Try to get the run out of turn 2 to clear him again. And this has brought Justin Roden back into the picture for top 5 position here, as they're going to go 2 by 2. Simpson still on the bottom. Now the 21 looking under the 81 of Brad Slaughter Jr. as the top 4 start to scoot away a little bit. Nick Massey, interesting to know, he hasn't let Elwood get completely out of his sight just yet.
Yeah, Rowden sneaks up into the 7th position there, in behind Simpson on the bottom side. So this is working for 6 points total if you can get up into that 5th position once we complete lap number 30. And Rowden on the bottom side, noses ahead down the back stretch. We'll see how the momentum favors each driver as they race off into turn 3, rather. And Justin Rowden, he looked at the inside of Simpson, doesn't quite get there, but he gets right on by Munsell.
That's how important getting to the inside line is. Munsell missed the bottom into turn 3 2 or 3 laps ago, and he let the bottom go to Chad Simpson. And what happened? He lost 2 spots after trying to gain 1. So, and Simpson might be in the same boat again. He gained 1 spot, and he let Roden take the bottom, and he might lose 2 spots here, as Roden's going to just barely get by at turn number 2. I think Simpson will have room to get in front of Munsell and stay in the 6th position here, as those two battle decently hard. As next time by will be 4 to go before the halfway points are given out, as Elwood has gapped Massey a little bit, but still not by much.
Let's not forget about this car, the 24 of Thomas Bresci, now sitting in 4th place. He is starting to work this long run to his favor, and he's starting to catch Bronson Stafford. Suddenly, Bresci looking pretty good. He can work up there. He'd currently get 7 points out of this first half of the race. He can work himself up to getting 8 if he can get that 3rd place position. And then the question is, when do you pit? I think these guys will likely make a pit stop if this one goes green to the end, but it's also really, really tough to say. I think the tires will wear out enough where it might be advantageous to take the pit stop. The fuel might not require it, but I'm sure you've seen it in official races, Connor, where you don't always need to pit for fuel, but guys just come in for tires anyways because it's so much faster to do so.
Yeah, we'll see what strategy holds, because we were talking about it. What if do you even pit at all under this green flag run? We'll see drivers that want to pit just take their tires at lap 30 after the halfway points are given out. But if the tires aren't wearing as bad as we think, we will see drivers stretch it to lap 60 to the very end. We obviously saw drivers who had damage come down to take tires and obviously repair their damage, like Shane Tarrant in the 83, who's still decently fast, although he is still mired back in the 18th position, maybe more damage than we thought. But you have drivers like that who have a little bit more fuel. I still don't know how long the fuel can go. We haven't seen a run. I think this might be even the longest run we've seen, as Justin Munsell just let Zach Passon go for the 7th position. And it could be a bunch of other strategies still happening. I think we might see them go all the way to the end on a fuel run, as it's going to get interesting, as we got Davey Hendricks is very mad at someone over the radio. He's mad at Case Lakatos as they're racing hard. So if we see a wreck, that might be where it is.
This is the final lap of the first half of this race. A much cleaner run, but let me get a clean spot on my desk and knock on wood here, because I don't want to jinx this. We've had a great run here in race number 2. We thought it was going to be a lot more chaotic than this. Very tame first half. Elwood will exit turn number 4 and take halfway honors. And Thomas Bresci in this battle now nose to tail with Stafford out front, Rowden in behind. Stafford, I think, just might let that 24 finally go now and concede the 3rd place position. He does exactly that. Rowden looks to follow through. And Zakuna just outside the top 10. Does he maybe pit this first time by? And if these guys are planning on 2 pits, it's 3 wide here for 3rd place. Do some of those guys maybe undercut? Does one of these guys come in and undercut the rest of the guys they're racing?
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But these are three drivers who could easily win this race, but they're losing their chance at winning the race because they're just letting Alan Elwood and Nick Massey get away from them. You can barely see them in the same picture as each other, as Bressy's still trying to get that inside lane to work. Stafford not giving it up easy on that top lane, but he has to concede to Bressy, and he'll likely have to concede to the 21 of Justin Roden as well.
Stafford now in behind Justin Rowden, kind of giving that spot up and racing up out of turn number 4. The 42 of Simpson might be looking at possibly a late run revival here, starting to work his way back up towards these guys. Granted, they are racing. In fact, Rowden and Bressy right back on with another. Rowden going to go on by on the bottom. Contact. That could have been so bad.
And Netco can really screw you in a position like that, and I think Broden definitely got lucky because they made contact left front, the right rear, and that somehow did not turn that 21 hard into the outside wall at a bad angle. So they got away with one, and Roden got away with one, and he's going to get the third and try to chase down the leader.
Yeah, that one could have been rough as Rowden's starting to put some time between he and Thomas Bressy. You see Bronson Stafford there as well. I love these overhead shots. You're able to watch these guys through the race, see the lines they take, and see how each driver kind of works through the process of each lap. And it's so cool to be able to also see a wide shot of race cars working around here mid-race, see the time in between one another. And we can also talk about Zach Passon because he's starting to work back into this little bit of a battle that's starting to stretch out over a few different cars. The 69 on the move.
Got a lap car in the way of the leader as driver check got disabled. That's what was going on between Davey Hendricks and Case Lakatos, and that eventually led to getting chat disabled. Not too surprising, as that's the lap car of Danny Ware they're working by with a lot of damage. Nick Massey still staying with Alan Elwood, by the way. Another thing to point out is, like you said, the 42 and the 69 are getting back into the battle for the top 5 position. These top 2 have stayed with each other. I'm surprised. I thought Nick Massey would let him go, but he has closed the gap back to the 5 machine a little bit. I think he sees that 21 coming, and he knows he needs to go.
Yeah, they're starting to look like they have made their bed, and they're going to lie in it. It's a single pit stop race for these guys. If they do stretch this out, of course, they had the caution flag to save some fuel. They aren't going to take tires, I don't think. If they were going to pit, they would have already, I dare say, to split this race up into relatively even portions. It's lap 36, now coming to lap 37. They still have not done so. I think that is the call, to go for no pit stop here in race number 2. If, again, we'll knock on wood, if this goes green to the end, and you've got to start thinking about how to maintain your tires the rest of the way. One of our keys to the race here, tire conservation, is top of the line. I mean, that's just, I think, the biggest point you have to make when you go anywhere with these NASCAR Xfinity Series cars. You've got to conserve your right front. Much less downforce than their Cup Series and Truck Series counterparts. You've really got to make sure you save your tires.
If you don't know how to tire save in today's day and age in iRacing, you're not going to be fast. You might be
that's
fast
me.
for 5
I'll
laps.
raise my hand.
You're going to be fast for about 5 laps. You're not going to be winning races on long green flag runs because that right front, like you said, in these B cars, these Xfinity cars, it's very vital. You can't just go full throttle because it's high downforce package like in NASCAR at the 1.5 mile racetracks in the Cup Series. These Xfinity cars, you have to wheel them. You have to drive them hard, but at the same time, you have to drive them conservative, which is tough to do. You can maybe go for a lower brake bias to help that right front a little bit, put some more heat in the rear tires and less in the front tires. That could be another decision you have to make on brake bias to save tires, but point of the matter is you have to be a little bit conservative to keep that right front on the car. If you don't keep that right front on the car, you're not going to be up at the front, and you're really going to have a tough time contending.
Yeah, I ran some B-Fix on Monday, and Logan Clampett was in there, of course. NASCAR iRacing Series, Coca-Cola Series driver. I kind of messed that one up, but you get the point. Logan Clampett was in there, number 1 in the server, of course, highest I rating, 8,000 something to my 2,000 something. And in the first few laps, after a couple of cautions, I drove right up to the back end of the 1 car, Logan Clampett. Sit back for a couple of laps, decide to maybe see what he's doing differently, and as soon as I could think about what he's doing differently, he's gapping me, and I'm falling back, and I'm losing spot after spot. It's so easy to think that you might have some pace on the short run, start to race somebody, and suddenly you're going backwards after maybe 10 laps, if that.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's hard to do. You try following someone to see what they're doing, but you just realize when they start gapping you and you start losing spots.
Ooh,
this
Bronson
is
Stafford.
Wow.
He was
That was
pointed at
kind
the
of out of
outside wall.
nowhere.
He was pointed at the Chrysler section of Charlotte Motor Speedway. I mean, he was going to give somebody a front row seat to a massive yard sale down the front stretch. Somehow saves it, and will now, well, he concedes to the 42 of Simpson, and I think he will to the 69 of Passon as well.
You're starting to see who saved their tires and who didn't. You're starting to see Zach Passon get through the field. He didn't do this at all last race, trying to almost get to a top 5 position. Chad Simpson, the same thing. Really didn't see a lot of him last race. He's worked his way into the top 5 now. Bronson Stafford starting to fall back a little bit more than he'd like. Munsel's fallen off a decent bit. You've seen Finney and Acuna get up to the 9th position. Where did he come from? And Brad Slaughter Jr., who started, I believe, in the top 3 or somewhere around there, he's dropped back a decent bit.
Here's Finian turning some laps now in the 9th position after starting 26th in this one. This, I think, is what a lot of drivers might have wanted to see in race number 1. A chance to just kind of sit back and race. And you know what? I don't want to talk about the lap 1 incident too much. I mean, kind of hurts to see so many cars get taken out of it, but I think that's what this has provided us, is the opportunity for the rest of these guys to sit back and race a little bit. Of course, the room was running out. I think that was the big thing that was causing incidents in race number 1, was they were just running out of room, racing for positions, and you don't have to do that quite as much. And of course, now with that, I don't want to call it a stand on the race, but you kind of can see it as that from a driver's perspective. You just want to get out there and race. You don't want to get wadded up. You want to be able to finish this thing. I think that really changed the mentality of the rest of the field to not wad things up so early in the race after that.
Yeah, these guys, you know, the time limit's the same for this race, but these guys had a little bit of a reality check, I think, with that lap 1 crash. They didn't even make it out of turn 2. A lot of drivers probably figured, all right, this can't work. We can't race like we have been. We have to get something else happening here. And I think you saw a lot more drivers start that run conservative, a lot more drivers a little bit more give and take this run, and we've had so far around almost close to a 40-lap run so far. So it's definitely been a better mentality for a lot of drivers so far in this race. As we're coming up, next time by will be 15 laps to go.
We've talked a lot about Shane Terrian, points leader coming into this evening. He sits in the 15th position, and he's got some damage on that number 83, but for the most part, looking pretty good. That said, he is sitting 15th, which is going to be a big hit to his points. He did all right in race 1. This one, not so much. He does work by to the outside, maybe not into turn 3. He was on the outside of Chambliss. He's still trying. Chambliss slides up in the 83, working the top. It's so tough to work in a second line here at Charlotte, especially given these Xfinity cars. But he gave it a shot up there. It's just not working so far. Again, this in around the 15th position or so. And Tebben up ahead of these guys. That's for 13th. Braxton DeWeese is even further ahead, and he's got a windshield full of Brad Slaughter Jr. and Robert Kenny. Oh my gosh! Brad Slaughter.
Brad Slaughter Jr. Don't know what that was about. I think he looked to the outside of Kenny, and there was a wall there. So he's got right front damage. No yellow, obviously. He kept it straight. That was a very, very odd sequence.
But hey, he keeps the car moving, and the race keeps going. And I covered a race recently at Daytona where, as you can see, Alan Elwood starting to gap the 20 of Massey. Maybe those tires falling off. But I covered a race recently where somebody got loose in the center of 1 and 2 at Daytona. And rather than trying to save that car, he just kind of threw it in the wall. He took one for the team. Well, for the field, as Elwood flirts with the wall out of turn 4. He took one for the team, kind of just screwed his own race over, if you will. And it preserved the race of everybody else. Thankfully, I think maybe if Slaughter Jr. had worked a little bit harder, maybe he could have actually accidentally thrown the car into a slide. He just kind of lets it go down to the apron, eventually catches it, continues on. We're okay. The race keeps going. We're going up to 12 laps to go for these drivers. And, I mean, what more can you say about Alan Elwood than dominant?
Yeah, there's not much else you can say about it. He's been very strong from the beginning of the run to the very end. He's flexing his muscles now as Nick Massey starts to fall off and fall back into the clutches of, oh, look who, Justin Roden, the 21 machine. First and third. He might only be third, but he's been the most dominant car of race 1. Definitely one of the fastest cars in race 2. He's raced his way all the way from 17th all the way up to third and about to battle for second. And last time by, the time before this time by, he was 0.2 faster. Last time by, he was only a few thousandths faster. But he's going to have to work by Nick Massey, who has a big wiggle out of turn number 4. And Nick Massey's just going to give it to him as we're going to get 11 to go this time by. 10 more laps after this lap, as that 21 finally has clear track to the 5 of Alan Elwood.
You can see the 21 works on by Massey. and that good for the second place. But it's not quite the top spot where, of course, you want to finish these races, especially if you're in Justin Rowden's position and you're not necessarily here for points on the season. You've got to work up there, and you've got to make up the next 7/10 of the 5 car. We'll see if he can do that over the course of 10 more laps. 10 laps to go then at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Your top 10 are Elwood, Rowden, Massey, Bresci, and Passon. Then Simpson, Stafford, Munsell, Takuna, and Kenny, with 10 laps to go in the second of 2 races here at Charlotte. Again, the Fuel Mission 22 series, Premier Series rather, experimenting this evening after issues at Indianapolis 1 week ago, forcing them to play catch-up kind of and make a race up. We've gone to this dual race format, 2 races in 1 evening. It's really changed things up, made everything a whole lot more exciting than I think it would have been, no offense. But this has been amazing racing. This has been really, really cool stuff. And to fill in Kyle's shoes, this is a treat, certainly, to work alongside you, Connor Horn. A whole lot of great racing this evening. And I'm not going to lie, a little bit head spun covering this one, now coming up to 8 laps to go on the evening. A whole lot to catch up with and keep up with, but it's been fun.
It's definitely been fun. One thing we probably should have been expecting, always with 2 races, I'll take 2 races that are similar. Obviously the Gatorade, not the Gatorade duels, but the duels at Daytona, you got 2 of them. You got one that's crazy, and you got one that's tame. And the first race of tonight at Charlotte was definitely the crazy one. And even with the big one on lap 1, turn 2 tonight in race 2, this is definitely the tame one. It's been a very fun display of racing. And we still got racing to go. Next time by will be 7 laps to go. Rowden's trying everything he can to get closer to the bumper of the 5 of Elwood. Gained hundredths on him last time by. Got real loose at a turn 4 there. I think he really lost a lot of time that time by. He's just running out of laps to make something happen. Lost 2/10 there.
You see a lot of cars with damage. We've only had the 1 caution in this second race of the evening. We had it on lap 1. And a lot of the field involved in it. It is lap 1, of course, not a turn number 2. You're going to wad up a lot of cars when it does happen. That's exactly what did happen. And unfortunately, putting a lot of guys out of this one early. In fact, 28th on back at a 35. Just completely done for the evening. The other few that are able to keep racing way down on pace. So we now have 6 laps to go. And we've gone green since then. And here we go on the 89 car. That is Brent Jones' rate that we're working by here with the leader of Alan Elwood. 5.5 laps to go now for the number 5, and look at the 84 pops the wall in front of him. But you know what? Rowden scraped it as well. Tires are gone.
Yeah, he's used all of them to get up to even get within a second, and it wasn't a big scrape, but he definitely got against it a little bit there. He just does not have the tire to get back up to Elwood. Lap traffic might have been helping him a little bit, but anything that's going to hurt him now is he's still got 3 cars between him and Elwood. 3.74 by Elwood. Rowden actually did gain time last time by, but he's going to have to gain a lot more time than that with only 5.5 laps to go.
Last lap for Elwood, a 32.375. Last lap for Rowden, a 32.281. Just barely faster as Nick Massey works by those couple of lap cars. And he's in the same neighborhood as Justin Rowden. He's got a fast race car right now, but it's just a large gap to overcome, and I'm not so sure that either one of these guys can do it with lapped cars in the fray. 4 laps to go now, and, well, that is what? 6 miles to go for these drivers.
And once again, clear track between the 5 and the 21, but he had a little bit of a run at him with around 10 laps to go when he got by Nick Massey, but he kind of used all the tire up in the run trying to get to a position to challenge Elwood, as he's going to go all the way to the top line. He's just trying something to make it work, but the top line just isn't there right now. No one's run it all race, just trying anything he can to get a run on the 5. Obviously losing time and kind of losing hope, likely, as he falls back into the clutches of Nick Massey now.
Yeah, this is a great battle we now have for second place. Nick Massey all over the back end of Justin Rowden. A few car lengths in between them maybe through 1 and 2, but the 20 is suddenly coming right back alive and might be able to best this 21 car for the second position. Thomas Bresci, the other missing part aside from Munsell, I guess, of the top 3 from race number 1. He sits in the 4th position. Munsell sitting in 9th right now. So the entire top 3 from race 1 in the top 10, but after having to come back from 13th, 14th, and 15th, they're not all faring quite as well as in race 1. And here's still that battle for second place behind race leader Alan Elwood.
A little bit of incident happened. Shane Terring kind of straight up turned Joseph Tebben into turn 1 a few laps ago. No harm, no foul. Ellen, kept it straight, kept it green. Nothing you could do there. But meanwhile, we're coming around. Alan Elwood, another picture-perfect race. Let's just say a picture-perfect weekend in general. 2 races coming to the white flag. Race is official.
This guy has been so good lately. The last race that counted for these drivers in New Hampshire, who won it? None other than Alan Elwood, putting himself on the list as the first multi-time winner in 2021 in the Fuel Mission 22 Premier Series. Tonight, he made himself the first 3-time winner. Now, later in the evening, he's going to make himself the first 4-time winner exiting turn number 4 at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Alan Elwood wins another. Justin Rowden is going to check in from second place over Nick Massey. How about that 5 car? Just insane, the runs that he's had lately.
Yeah, he's been insane. He was good at the short tracks, his first 2 wins at the short tracks, but he showed today he can get it done at the 1.5 miles as well. Going for 2 at Charlotte. 1 night, 2 wins. You can't get any better than that. And for the points, with how Terrian finished the 2 races, he very well might be the points leader because he just absolutely dominated. Laps led, halfway points. He did it all tonight.
Absolutely did. Alan J. Elwood, a hell of a run, we'll just say it. The 5 car was so good this evening. Got his first win on the season back at Rockingham, then added to it at New Hampshire. 2 very interesting racetracks, right about a mile. In fact, Rockingham just a little bit over a mile. And now we come to Charlotte Motor Speedway, another driver's racetrack, I feel like, but in a completely different category. And he adds himself as not only the first 3-time winner, but again, the first 4-time winner. Everybody else in the series that won. This is insane. In 7 races, he's got 4 wins to everybody else's 1 win. This is great stuff we're seeing right now from the 5 car of Alan Elwood. This is supreme talent.
Yeah, it's definitely a new contender in the Fuel Mission 22 Premier Series. He wasn't here last season, and from the get-go in this series, when he started racing, he's been at the front, and he's been battling for wins, and obviously he's been getting the wins. This is his 4th of the season, 2 tonight, 3 in a row. I don't know. I can't remember last time someone won 3 in a row like this in Fuel, so there's no doubt in my mind. Terrian's still Mr. Consistent, but he's usually consistent when he doesn't win. Elwood's just consistently winning right now, so he is definitely the man to beat in Fuel right now.
Absolutely, I think it all comes down to that 5 car. With that said, 2 races on the evening in, done and dusted. We have race results to look at, and it all comes down to, oh, you know what? Let's try and reset this graphic. It is on the wrong page. We'll give this one more shot. There we go. Alan Elwood up top. That's what we want to see. Justin Rowden second place. Nick Massey checking in at 3rd. We'll talk to all of them, including 4th place finisher Thomas Bressy. Zach Passon comes in at 5th place in the 69 car. Then it's Chad Simpson. Finian Takuna, how about that? 7th place for him. Justin Munsell, after finishing 2nd place in race 1, drops to 8th. Then Braxton DeWeese in the number 1. A great comeback for him. And Robert Kenny ekes out a top 10 finish.
Yeah, really good top 10 finish for him. Able to get through the field at the very end there. 11th on back, Bronson Stafford fell back. Brian Chambliss, Davey Hendricks, who had that spat with Case Lakatos. He finishes 13th. Breslaughter Jr. slipped back to 14th. Tebben 15th. Lakatos 16th. Mike Tellier recovered for 17th. Riley Thompson, kind of a beaten and battered car, 18th. Casey Shue and David Mott Jr. the same damaged cars. They round out the top 20.
Rolling back to the 21st position, it's Shane Terrian, 1 lap down after his late race issues. Hayden Pastorius there. Thankfully, they scraped him off of the barrels down out of turn number 4, got him back in the race for the 2nd running, and he doesn't quite get what he wanted. I mean, he was caught up in that lap 1 incident, ends up finishing 22nd place rather, 1 lap down. Tom Bourne there with him, Brent Jones as well, and Danny Ware in 25th. Michael Stroll, after his damage early, finishes 26th. Sarah Tessum, we talked about that 70 car lot in race 1. Unfortunately, not so much here in race number 2, 27th spot. Then Christian Gritzko, Will Roberts, and Matthew Rodriguez round out the top 30. You see just a few more cars here at the back. Mike Hurley, Tyler Hensley, the final to start. Buchanan, Kish, and Welker did not make the start. And so that is your Charlotte finishing order from race number 2. We'll get right on with post-race interviews. We're going to talk to 4th place finisher Thomas Bressy first, though, as he, unfortunately, we didn't get to talk to him after race number 1, so we'll bring him in now. And Thomas, amazing stuff there in that first race, and a great drive from 13th to 4th in the 2nd race as well.
Yeah, it was an interesting night, that's for sure. I mean, I wish I could have gotten a couple spots better in the first race. Honestly, I thought if it had gone green and we didn't run out of time, I maybe could have gotten to Allen, but he did a good job in both races taking care of his car. And the fuel in the second race, I know we were all pretty tight there, but just kind of ran out of time, and is what it is. But hey, decent result for the mess of an evening that things were. So glad kind of worked out for me. My teammates unfortunately weren't so lucky, but it's how it goes sometimes. So we'll roll on to, well, we got an off week, thankfully. I think everybody can use it after tonight.
Certainly a hectic race number 1, but you come out at least on the podium. Not quite the result you want in either race, but still really, really good. Going to add to your point total here in 2021. How do you feel then about the rest of the season? I mean, this is kind of the halfway point in the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy that tonight honestly went the way it did, at least for me. Just I've not had a great stroke of luck here. I should have finished on the podium at New Hampshire and got wrecked by a lap car. Should have finished top 5 at Auto Club and got wrecked by a lap car in like lap 20. Had the sim crash on me while running in the top 10 with like 5 to go at Daytona. So I'm in a pretty big points hole. So I'm happy tonight went the way it did. So hopefully I can kind of shovel myself out of that a little bit. But I feel confident. Unfortunately, didn't get to defend the win that I had here from last year. But, good night. And, I think we can kind of carry that. Hopefully the bad luck is gone. Hopefully that's the case. And, the rest of the season can go kind of smoothly into the playoffs.
Absolutely. Now, Thomas, it's been a long time since you and I have talked. For anybody brand new to you, and even myself to catch back up with you, the driver of the 24 car here, tell us a bit about yourself and why people need to watch out for you in the number 24 the rest of the season as you vie for a championship.
Well, man, I don't know. I mean, I just try to be as consistent as I can, and I think that's kind of what's kept me in the title hunt the last couple of years. I don't win as much as I would like to. I was in the championship hunt last season and only had 1 win the whole year, but obviously the consistency bit has been a little tricky this year given incidents sort of out of my hands, but just try to keep this 24 car up front as best I can, and just be there when it counts. And tonight almost there, but not quite.
Absolutely a great run for the number 24, even though, sure, we all want to be a few positions higher, but still a lot of points for you this evening. Who do you have to thank? Who do you have to shout out this evening from Charlotte Motor Speedway?
Yeah, I mean, I got to give a shout out, though, to my teammates, Tyler and Casey. I mean, they didn't have the best luck. I know Casey kind of got shafted in the first race on like lap 5 due to some random stack up, and I think Tyler was kind of a victim in that first lap mess in race 2. So, but just their dedication and giving it 110%, and just kind of keeping the team motivated as a whole. So, got to give a shout out to them, obviously, and just. The league admins will, obviously, for, doing what he can behind the scenes. I know this was sort of a different format change from what we were planning on doing, which I think kind of had mixed results, but, at least kind of making up for the hiccups that we had at Indy last week. So, certainly appreciative of that. And you guys, of course, as well, for doing the broadcast.
Oh, I see. Sucking up to us right at the end there. Congratulations on a top 3 in race 1. A 4th place, almost bronze again in race number 2. And we'll be watching out for you in 2 weeks' time.
All right. Thanks, guys.
And so, again, that is Thomas Bressi. Gets that 3rd place position in race number 1. Connor, not so high there in race number 2, but still a really good run here for the 24 car. And we hand it down to you with race winner then in race number 2, as well as race number 1, Alan Elwood. Amazing run this evening.
Yeah, hi, Alan Elwood. We're up here again, sort of like deja vu. Race 2, you did it again. This is 3 wins in a row for you now. You're just on fire recently. How'd you get back to the front so quickly tonight in this second race, and how were you able to hold off 20 and the 21?
I made a little bit of an adjustment from race 1 to race 2 in how to drive the track. I felt like I realized what I was doing wrong to... like Rowden, for instance, in the first race, kind of had a little bit of pace on me. So I figured out what I was doing wrong and made some adjustments, and it paid off. And just, you starting in midfield, you got to make your way through the field quick. And that was my goal, and luckily I was able to do that without too much. I know we had that big wreck in the first lap. Was able to get through that, no harm, no done. and at that point it was just focus back to get to the front and hopefully stay clean. And at that point it's, with the fuel, do you pit, do you not pit? I really wasn't sure what everybody else was going to do, and so you just kind of have to see what everybody else is doing at that point, figure out what you want to do.
It was obviously something we didn't really know what to expect. We thought the fuel might be able to make it, but the tires were obviously maybe a little bit of an issue, but all in all, the majority of the field made it. But move on from that, let's focus a little bit bigger picture. Like I said, 3 wins in a row, 4th win on the season overall, obviously 2 tonight, and this could likely put you in a very good spot points-wise. Obviously no official points up yet, but you weren't too far behind Terry and Riley Thompson, who had very rough races in race 2 specifically. So you could be walking out here with a decent points lead. Are you focusing on points right now, or are you just taking it one race at a time?
Honestly, Connor, I'm just taking it one race at a time, and the points are nice, but previous experience coming into leagues that I wasn't familiar with, don't necessarily, I didn't get off to good starts there, and my goal here was to get good finishes and be there, when we get down to the final 4 races. But at this point, it's like, I'll take every win that I can get, and obviously that's going to be good for the points. So just trying to run the best that I can, and stay up front as much as possible, and see where the cards lie at the end.
You've definitely done a great job keeping up at the front. You've been very exciting to watch, and you're going to be even more exciting to watch as the season winds down. Once again, you're likely going to be in the points lead. You're going to be in a very good spot. Who do you have to thank to put you in this position and have such a good run in this season so far?
Oh my gosh. First off, my teammates, the VRA, we've put our heads down and really wanted to come out here at Fuel and put on a good show and hope that we can get good finishes, and those guys are just great teammates. I can't do this without those guys. Everybody here at Fuel that makes it happen. Will, Michael, you guys here at SimTV, like, just this whole league package is outstanding, and I'm really happy to be here. I'd like to thank my wife for obviously letting me do this. Without her permission, I probably wouldn't be sitting here doing it, so got to thank her. And family and everybody out there just tuning in. Thank everybody for making this what it is.
You got a bunch of people, by your side and behind you and got you, and it definitely shows in the way you perform, and it's been really fun watching you, and like I said, it's going to be even more fun watching you as the season winds down. 4th win of the season, Alan Elwood. Thanks for talking to us.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. So we're going to move on here. Who are we going to talk to next, Andrew? Who we got?
Well, it's going to be the 2nd place finisher this evening, Justin Rowden. And Justin was oh so fast this evening. Doesn't quite top the standings in either race, but Justin, a really good 22 car underneath you this evening. How'd it go?
It was a good night. I had speed in both the races, and felt like I put myself in position to be there at the end, and unfortunately just couldn't finish it off.
So, of course, we saw what happened there at the end of race number 1, and I just want to ask you straight up, what was the move there at the end of race number 1? You pitted, and it looked like maybe you were trying to race to get back into 15th, and it just didn't quite work out. I mean, it would have been a pole-paying position, but unfortunately not so much there at the end of race 1.
Yeah, well, I just didn't realize how many people had used both sets of tires, and I figured with, roughly 10 laps left, if people behind me took tires, I'd be a sitting duck if we went green. And so I thought that if I took tires, I'd probably be around closer to 10th and maybe get 5 laps plus a green-white checkered or 2 and really have an opportunity to get back up there to the lead. Unfortunately, I didn't take into account the timer ran out on us and kind of stuck me back there before I had a chance.
Yeah, there you go. I mean, it could have worked out if more guys had gone with you, and if we had raced green to the end, I think that would have helped a ton, of course. But unfortunately, it holds you back to then a 17th starting position for race number 2. But defying all odds and missing somehow that wreck on lap 1, you race up to 2nd place. What was it like trying to weave through the field?
It was a lot of fun. I feel like I do better at being more disciplined when I start in the back and kind of work my way up. And Alan got out to a big lead there, and I knew that if I just took care of my stuff and was really conservative on the tires, I had a good chance to get back to him. there's a little bit of fuel saving going on in there, and I thought with about 12 to go that I was in a real good spot, and then as I was pushing to catch him, I just kind of melted the tires off.
Speaking of tire conservation, one of our keys to the race this evening, how do you, at Charlotte Motor Speedway, a place that, the pavement is aging, and we recently got a refresh of this track, it's certainly starting to wear these tires out very, very quickly. It used to be called the Beast of the Southeast for a reason. How do you save tires here at Charlotte? How do you try and get to the whole distance?
I think the most important thing is getting your left sides right on the blue line down there between the track and the apron, and just kind of hooking the blue line to pull the car around. I also take a shallower entry than most people do. I like to let off early, drive in really shallow, and then once you hook that blue line, it'll kind of pull the car around and do the work for you. And I've come to find that saves tires quite a bit at Charlotte.
Well, there you go. Now everybody can go and run Charlotte really, really well in May, I'd say. Congratulations on a top 3 here in race number 2, a second place. Who do you have to thank? Who do you have to shout out?
I want to give a shout out to all my guys at Nexus. Being able to practice with them every week keeps me sharp and on my toes. And I also want to give a shout out to Will. I know he does a great job running this league. Michael Stroll for getting me involved and bringing me in the race with these guys, and you guys for an excellent broadcast every week.
Justin Rowden, second place finisher in race number 2. And big congratulations to he and the 21 team for doing so. We'll move it right down the line then and speak with the third place finisher from race number 2. It's Nick Massey in the number 20. Oh, so close to racing the 21 there at the end. Well, we're going to hand it on down to Connor Horn and hear from him.
Hello, Nick Massey. We got you?
Yes, sir.
All right, well, we got you in the top 3 again. Obviously, you're ERSCA champion a few months back, and you're really good at these mile-and-a-half racetracks, but you kind of had a lackluster finish in the first race, about not too lackluster, top 10 finish, and you did a way better tonight in the second race. You only had enough for third. Did you think you had anything for Elwood and Rowden, or was that all you had?
I tried saving the tires there, but Elwood's just so good, and Rowden's so good too. I thought at the beginning of the run, I thought I might have something for him. I was able to hang with Elwood there for a little bit, but I just burned the right rear off the thing, and he started pulling away. And then Justin started running me down, so I let him go too. I was hoping they would get to racing up there and bring me back to him, but didn't work out as planned.
We were talking with Elwood just a little bit ago. He was talking about how he didn't really know what to do with strategy around halfway through. He didn't know if you're going to run the fuel out to the end or maybe pit for tires. Did you know what you were doing on strategy the entire time?
Yeah, I was peeking at the fuel, but I didn't think I noticed I was like a lap or 2 to the good, so I was just going 100%. I wasn't trying to save any. So I was surprised these guys were running out of fuel or right on the edge.
Yeah, definitely something we were not really looking to do after the first race, but we did get that green flag run in, and the fuel did get a little bit close. As I'm trying to see where you are we're not quite sure where you are in the points. You're about 13th coming into tonight, so you might have gained a few more positions on the points, maybe trying to get your way into the fuel finals. Are you looking at the points right now, and how interested are you in it in trying to get into those fuel finals potentially?
I'm gonna try. I haven't checked recently, to be honest with you. I know I had some connection issues earlier on in the first couple races, but I think I got those ironed out, so hopefully be able to put some good runs together. Tonight's a good start for sure. It was good to have these long green flag runs in this second race here. Those are definitely helpful and more my style rather than the short runs with cautions like we had in the first race. So yeah, definitely gonna try to keep the good runs coming and hopefully be in position to go for a championship here. We'll see.
Yeah, the long run definitely played into your favor. 9th in the first race, 3rd in the second race. Definitely a good points night for you compared to a lot of other drivers who really struggled getting in that crash in race 2. And obviously you're looking better in the points after tonight. Who do you have to thank for the performance that you've had in fuel so far this season?
I just want to thank all my Luminary teammates for bringing me on board this season. Shane and Matt Rod and Tom Bronson, all those guys. Shout out to Evil Controllers and G Fuel too for being on the car. Thanks for putting on the broadcast. It's been fun so far. Looking forward to the rest of the season.
Well, this one was especially fun with all the chaos that we were seeing tonight. We saw a bunch of cars go flying tonight as well, so that was interesting as well. But the finish is obviously really thrilling. Seeing you get a top 3, obviously, like I said, the league champion in Erska a few months back, trying to duplicate it again in Fuel. Thanks for talking to us, Nick Massey. Hope you have a lot more luck in the future.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Hopefully we'll be talking to you soon.
We'll see you then.
And so that does it. That takes us to the end of our coverage here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway as we try and sort out Discord there. Sorry about that, Connor. I gotta ask you, final thoughts here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. We saw a lot of racing, a lot to take in for sure. What do you take away from this race?
It's gonna be a format that we might not see again because while it was definitely exciting for us to watch, a lot of the drivers I'm seeing, as you see the text chat, you probably can't see it, but the text chat going up and down, I don't think a lot of drivers really liked the format. One thing they didn't like was open qualifying. That's not going anywhere in this season, but it was a lot of chaos from tonight's 2 races. We had the first race that was the wild thing, and you had the second race that was just pretty tame after the first crash. I say tame, but at the same time, we did have that big pile up. So I don't know if it's a format we'll see again, but it was definitely entertaining to watch. You had the drivers who were the fastest stay the fastest and get back up to the front. And some guys like Shane Terrian weren't as lucky. Then you had some guys like Nick Massey, for example, and even Zach Pass and Chad Simpson, Finney DeCuna, guys who usually don't run that far up the field, get top 10. So a lot of comers and goers tonight, and it was really thrilling to watch 2 very hard-fought races.
Yeah, I don't think we officially get to vote on whether or not this format comes back, but if we could, I certainly would. And I know it's frustrating for the drivers here at Charlotte, but I think used at the right racetrack and with a bit more preparation time going into it, this could be an amazing format change for at least one race. And, I mean, you're seeing format changes all across NASCAR lately, I think. Of course, we're supposed to be taking out live pit stops for 2019, 2020, and changing things up. I think it was just 2020, actually. And now we have the Bristol Dirt Race to look forward to in 2021. I think change is a good thing, and to change up even just one race could benefit. But also, hey, if the drivers are against it, at the end of the day, the drivers are the ones running the races, and we'll see what happens then in 2021 B season of Fuel competition. All I know is I really enjoyed being here this evening, and it was a lot of fun. It truly was a lot of fun, and I want to thank Kyle Heyer and everybody at SimTV for contacting me at the time of need and bringing us on. I'm not gonna lie, Connor, I was playing catch up most of the evening to try and keep up with you in the race, but boy, it was a lot of fun being back with Fuel, although on coverage now as opposed to out there with these guys. Maybe I'll have to join for some point in the season or next season and get myself back on SimTV in that capacity. I want to thank you so much for being awesome as always, helping me out get through this very interesting race here. But that does conclude our coverage tonight from Charlotte Motor Speedway of the Fuel Mission 22 Premier Series. We at SimTV thank you for tuning in and joining us for tonight's action. We hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. You can check out the YouTube channel for all of your upcoming SimTV broadcasts. Always tons and tons of racing. I think we had Grid Life tonight that you can check out at some point later on. I'm sure, I don't know the schedule weekly here for SimTV, filling in for Kyle, but I will tell you, I'm back on Thursday evening for Scar's Super Trofeo competition, and that will be a lot of fun, working with Finian for, I think, the first or second time that I've had, and that will be a treat for sure. So, once again, thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, Connor, for having me alongside you. Thank Kyle for, having me do this evening. And we will see you next time. I want everybody to have a great night.
But like less than two days ago, like within the last 2 days, I remember seeing posts